Chapter 21:31. Everyone bowed. They knew that this was a chance that Night Sorrow was giving them. Don't feel too pressured. We're all brothers for life. You might enter the Emperor realm later, but it's not a problem. Also, you can bring your family members over. Chuyu, make the arrangements and have Sister Xian, take care of them, Night Sorrow said to Sikong Chuyu. Sikong Chuyu nodded. Some of the members of the god-slaying team in the Nine Domains world already had their own families. Many years ago they were all alone, but after many years had passed, they all had their own families and businesses. They all had families that they cared about, just like Sikong Chuyu. After making the arrangements, Night Sorrow's nine-domain doppelganger went to a tea house not far from the heaven-sealing Great Hall to drink tea. He was quite worried about Mo Tianji. 1 year was almost up. If Mo Tianji didn't improve well in these few decades, she might die in the Nine Emperor Tribulation. While Night Sorrow was worrying, Mo Tianji came out. A high-level cultivator's sense of time was very accurate. Mo Tianji could also sense the time of the heavenly tribulation. How is it? Night Sorrow waved his hand and had Mo Tianji sit across from him. Mo Tianji poured herself a cup of tea and said, "It's not bad. I originally thought that time was short and I might not make it in time. After all, my cultivation realm was only slightly above the 8 Emperor Tribulation, not the 9 Emperor Tribulation. My cultivation couldn't keep up with my realm. But in reality, after experiencing some things and enduring the impact of Jun Xuanji unsealing my soul, my mental state improved a lot. My realm also increased. It's about time now." "That's good. These are some pills that my martial uncle prepared for me. I'll give you some of them." Night Sorrow took out the pills that King Yenwu had given him. He felt that he still had time to prepare, but Mo Tianji didn't have time. "Thank you. These are really supreme-grade pills. But there's no need. I've been bumpy all these years and used up a lot of cultivation resources. However, I still have some healing and recovery pills. I'll accept the Realm Lord's kindness." Mo Tianji opened the pill bottle and took a look before pushing it back to Night Sorrow. "N to the power of P carat. It's good that you have it. I'm going to preach tomorrow. It should be around the same time as your tribulation. I'll be waiting for your good news," Night Sorrow said. "Preaching tomorrow? I still have time. Can I go and take a look?" Mo Tianji asked. "Sure. I'll send my battle clone to pick you up. Then, I'll have Misty accompany you. That way, there won't be any problems," Night Sorrow said after a moment's consideration. Mo Tianji nodded. In the past, she was a being from Heaven Wasteland. The civilization of the celestial realm was meaningless to her. However, it was different now. She had obtained the life origin power of the Nine Domains world and was considered a being of the Nine Domains world. The civilization that Sector Lord Night Sorrow was spreading might be helpful to her. Night Sorrow's battle clone went to the Nine Domains world and brought the black-haired Mo Tianji to the Night Moon Villa. He let Mo Tianji and Lin Misty meet. He didn't introduce Mo Tianji to anyone else because he was worried that Mo Tianji would feel awkward. Then, Night Sorrow took out a piece of refining material. He waved his hands and made a token. There was the word Night on it. He handed it to Mo Tianji. "This has my soul aura. If anyone notices something wrong with you and comes to ask about it, show it to them. If there's any trouble, just crush my soul crystal. Don't worry. I won't cause any trouble. After listening to your Tao preaching, I'll return to the Nine Domains world to undergo my tribulation." Mo Tianji nodded. Although she wasn't from the celestial realm, she had been hiding in the celestial realm for a while. She knew about Night Sorrow's identity and status in the celestial realm. She knew that this token was the token that allowed her to go anywhere in the celestial realm. After everything was arranged, Night Sorrow brought his family to Heaven Wasteland City. At this time, there were cultivators everywhere in the Heavenly Wasteland City. They had been notified 100 years in advance. All the members of the Heavenly Realm who were qualified to enter the Heavenly Wasteland City had come to listen to the preaching. The Celestial Realm was currently ruled by the human race. The human Tao civilization was the civilization of the Celestial Realm. Therefore they all wanted to see it. It would be beneficial for them. Around the Grand Martial Arts Arena in Heaven Wasteland City were seats for various forces. The Chaos Realm had their own seats. The Reincarnation Island also had their own seats. In the middle of the arena was a platform. After everything was ready, the Grand Elder came to the platform and signaled for everyone to be quiet. Then he said, "A reincarnation cycle lasts for billions of years. There is only one human sovereign in each reincarnation cycle. In the past, there were many reincarnations where no human sovereign appeared. In addition, there were very few human sovereigns who could become deluxe merit monarchs. In this reincarnation cycle and epoch, there was a human sovereign who became deluxe merit monarchs. He has the human sovereign seal and the human clan's deluxe merit canon, Tao Te Ching. From today onwards, the human sovereign will preach for 9 days." After speaking, the Grand Elder cupped his hands to Knight Sorrow. This was his respect for the human sovereign. Knight Sorrow nodded and walked to the platform. In terms of age, Knight Sorrow is young and inexperienced. In terms of cultivation, there are many people who are stronger than Knight Sorrow. Knight Sorrow is lucky to have mastered the human clan's Tao Te Ching. He has some achievements in cultivation. This time, I will preach the way of the gentleman to everyone. Knight Sorrow stood on the platform and talked about the way of the gentleman and the way of the gentleman. During the preaching, golden characters appeared on Knight Sorrow's body. They were the records of the way of the gentleman and the way of the gentleman in the Tao Te Ching. After speaking, Knight Sorrow sat on the platform and circulated the way of the Tao Te Ching around his body. The book of Tao Te Ching mainly showed the exposition of the way of the gentleman, as well as the common knowledge of civilization about cultivating one's body and morality, being blessed by the way of heaven, and being blessed by luck. The way of the Tao Te Ching rotated around Knight Sorrow's body. The way of the Tao Te Ching was displayed in front of everyone. Observing the way of the Tao Te Ching would definitely cleanse one's body, mind, and soul. Knight Sorrow was also comprehending the essence of the way of the Tao Te Ching. The martial arts arena was peaceful. Everyone was enveloped in the light of the human clan's Tao Te Ching, activated by Knight Sorrow. When the sun set on the 9th day, Knight Sorrow stood up. This time, the way of the human clan's Tao Te Ching is coming to an end. I will say a few words to everyone. Actually, cultivating the way of the gentleman and the way of the Tao Te Ching is to live with a clear conscience and be upright. Every step of the way must be able to withstand the test and scrutiny. This is also beneficial to one's cultivation. One can reach a state where one's heart is flawless and transparent. In this state, the path forward is bright. This preaching is about cultivating the way of the gentleman. The next preaching will be about kindness. I hope everyone will come and listen. I believe that if every cultivator has the way of the gentleman, then the 100 races of the celestial realm will be different from the celestial realm, Knight Sorrow said. Your Majesty, after listening to the way of the gentleman, I have a question in my heart. Cultivators respect the strong. Might is right. Is the way of the gentleman useful? An expert of the Azure Dragons asked. Chapter 2132. So Human Emperor, please enlighten us. Another human cultivator also stood up. It's actually not complicated. In the past, it was said that the strong were respected, but it was actually an interpretation of great merit and reason. It was a trend but not a principle. In other words, if someone was truly invincible and dared to say that they had great merit and reason, but if they dared to kill indiscriminately, they would inevitably be abandoned by the heavenly way. Their own luck would be affected, and they might fall in the future because they had no luck. For example, there was once a master on the celestial and demon list, Gue Zhu. He was a master back then, so why did he fall? Because he had no virtue, he was abandoned by the cultivators and was abandoned by the heavenly way. This was because he had no reason, so he fell at the hands of others. To put it bluntly, I'm standing here. There are cultivators of the 100 races in the celestial realm who can kill me, but if they kill me without reason, wouldn't they be surrounded by others? Respect yourself and reason, this is the right way, Knight Sorrow said. Thank you, sir. This junior understands. Standing upright and acting upright is reason. The human cultivator bowed and retreated. I'm not asking everyone to abandon the idea of the strong being respected. Everyone should aspire to the path of the strong. This pursuit is not wrong. It's just that you should be more demanding of yourself, pay attention to virtue, and be a cultivator that others like and respect. We need to challenge injustice and evil. After Knight Sorrow finished speaking, he cupped his hands to the people around him. In response to Knight Sorrow, everyone bowed. This was because Knight Sorrow's philosophy was the philosophy of civilization. If the gentleman's wind could be valued by all cultivators, then the celestial realm would indeed change. After the preaching, Knight Sorrow left. He was invited to the Grand Elder's small world. Grand Elder, do you think it's appropriate? Knight Sorrow asked after sitting down. It's appropriate. Since ancient times, there has been a distinction between good and evil. What you said about cultivating one's body and virtue is righteous. If all cultivators can do this, then there will naturally be less evil. The Grand Elder nodded. He was very satisfied with today's results. Grand Elder, if you think it's appropriate, then it'll be done in 100 years. Knight Sorrow said. In a few days, I'll be going through the tribulation. The tribulation of the 9 emperors has been suppressed for a while, but it can't be suppressed any longer. The 7th Patriarch will be in charge of the heavenly wasteland city during this period of time. If anything happens, you need to step up. He was a cultivator at the end of the previous reincarnation cycle. Now that he had entered the 9th era of this reincarnation cycle, the tribulation of the 9 emperors was coming. When? All right, this is the City Lord medallion that the City Lord wanted me to give you. If there's a problem, pour your soul power into it and the City Lord will come back. The outer realms are hidden very deeply. The City Lord medallion can take his time to capture them. For now, he can't stay in Tianhuang City, the Great Elder said after handing Yi Shang a medallion. Knight Sorrow didn't refuse. He had to shoulder some responsibilities. Mo Tianji. I saw some changes in her aura. She's no longer vicious. Good. The Grand Elder mentioned Mo Tianji. I didn't inform the Grand Elder in advance because I don't think she'll be a threat. Killing someone is just a matter of nodding her head to the ground. If she's willing to submit, I can't raise my butcher's knife and continue to chop her down, said Yi Shan. You handled it well. That's how a human emperor should behave. The Grand Elder said. After talking with the Grand Elder, Knight Sorrow's clone gave the Tao Te Ching of human Tao to his original body. Then, his clone stayed in the mansion of Heavenly Desolate City. As the young City Lord of Heavenly Desolate City, he had to stay when the City Lord and the Grand Elder weren't around. Most of the members of the First Army and the God-slaying team stayed in his mansion. Some of them cultivated on Reincarnation Island. Mo Tianji, Lin Piaomiao, and the members of the God-slaying team returned to the 9 Regions world. Mo Tianji left 9 Regions world to find a place to undergo her tribulation. Knight Sorrow's 9 Regions clone gathered the members of the God-slaying team who had returned to the 9 Regions world and announced something. Because the members of the God-slaying team had made great contributions to the 9 Regions world and were recognized by the 9 Regions world's origin, Knight Sorrow took out 1,000,000 Saint Spirit stones and threw them into the Heaven Sealing Palace. Everyone could cultivate inside. The Heaven Sealing Palace in the 9 Regions world was more effective for cultivation than the Reincarnation Palace. In the past, the Reincarnation Palace only displayed the will of the world. Only after the emergence of Imperial Realm cultivators did the momentum of the world manifest to assist the cultivators. However, the 9 Regions world was different. There were many 9th rank cultivators in the 9 Regions world. Moreover, the 9 Regions world's level had surpassed the Great World and was developing toward a supreme world. The momentum of the world was manifesting at any time. Sikong Chuyu, Yang Lei, and Aoi's original bodies also entered the Heaven Sealing Palace to cultivate. Knight Sorrow didn't need his family members to achieve great things. However, they had high standards for themselves. They also had their own goals. They didn't want to be left behind by the God-slaying team. Knight Sorrow didn't stop his wife from pursuing such goals. His wife, who hadn't reached the Imperial Realm, went to cultivate in the Heaven Sealing Palace. Knight Sorrow called his children, who hadn't reached the 9th rank yet, to a mansion not far from the Heaven Sealing Palace. WH0 permanent, free. Fee square root a look. Little sigh. Your mothers and concubines have their own goals. They've all gone to the Heaven Sealing Palace to cultivate. Although I don't have any requirements for you, I feel that it's not bad to give you some pointers. If you can all reach the Imperial Realm, I will have no regrets. Knight Sorrow looked at all his children and said. Yi Qingyan and the others bowed to Knight Sorrow. They could feel their father's love. They respected Knight Sorrow not because he was the Realm Lord, but because of Knight Sorrow's love for them. Lord Yu, go and find your senior brother and sister. Let them cultivate with you. It's been so many years. As their master, I haven't given them any guidance. Speaking of which, I'm leading them astray. Night Sorrow shook his head. Father. Senior brother and sister won't think that way. They are incomparably respectful to their master. Yi Xiaolei hugged Night Sorrow's arm and said, Okay, I'll start guiding you in your cultivation tomorrow. Today, you kids will accompany me to drink. Otherwise, when you and your sister get married one day, I won't be able to find you even if I miss you. Night Sorrow said as he patted the back of his daughter's head. Father, Xiaolei doesn't want to get married. If anyone wants to marry me, let them join the Yi clan. Yi Xiaolei said with a smile. That won't do. Our Yi clan can't use our status to suppress feelings. If there's someone who really likes you, then so be it. However, I'll leave a mansion for you in the city in the sky. Yi clan will always be your home. Night Sorrow said. That's great. Xiaolei thanks father. Yi Xiaolei said happily. What's there to thank father for? I just hope that in the future, there will be more people by my side to serve me tea. Night Sorrow said with a smile. At this moment, a few people appeared in the 9 regions world's teleportation array. It was Jean Tan, Yi, and a young man. It's rare for your martial uncle to be so free. Let's go and pay your respects to your famous martial uncle. Then you can cultivate with him. I'll leave you with him so that your mother and I don't have to worry about you. Jean Tan said to the young man beside her. Chapter 21:33. Mother, why are you still laughing? I guess I won't have a good life after being thrown to senior uncle's place by father. The youth said. Won't have a good life? Why do you say that? Yi looked at her son in confusion. She and Jean Tan's son was called Jean Yi, and Yi was the equivalent of her name. Senior uncle is the domain lord of the Chaos Domain, and the elder of the 100 Races Alliance in the Celestial Realm. He's also the human emperor. He's definitely different from senior uncle Qing Lin. He's probably very fierce. If I'm the slightest bit dishonest, I'll probably be dealt with. Jean Yi said softly. Then can't you be more honest? Jean Tan glared at her son. You are really wrong this time. Your martial uncle Yi is the most amiable and approachable person. Mother didn't see your martial uncle Yi lose his temper. Back then in the Azure Imperial Dynasty, there were many people who let your martial uncle Yi down, but he forgave them all. Of course, if you want to be your martial uncle Ye's opponent, that would be a nightmare. Yi smiled. That's really not scary. Jean Yi's mind was a little lively. You rascal, what are you thinking? Jean Tan slapped the back of Jean Yi's head and then led his wife and son towards Night Sorrow's residence. Night Sorrow was already standing in front of the residence looking at them. Jean Tan and Yi brought Jean Yi over. Night Sorrow went up and hugged Jean Tan. Senior brother, sister-in-law, it's rare for you guys to come here. I'm accompanying my children today and was planning to get them to drink with me. Now that they're here, who is this? Night Sorrow looked at Jean Yi. Why aren't you greeting senior uncle? What are you thinking about? Jean Tan waved her hand again. Disciple Jean Yi greets senior uncle human emperor. Jean Yi was about to bow but was stopped by Night Sorrow. Senior uncle has to say something. There's a problem with your parents' upbringing. Senior uncle is senior uncle and has nothing to do with the human emperor. Let's go. Senior uncle's children are older than you. You should call them senior brother and sister. Senior uncle, my parents intend to leave me here. Jean Yi said softly. As he spoke, he paid attention to Night Sorrow's expression. Sure. Let's not talk about drinking. You're still young, but you have to learn how to brew tea. Martial uncle loves to drink tea. Once the tea is brewed, Martial uncle will scold you less. Night Sorrow said with a smile. Mother loves tea and taught me the way of tea. Jean Yi said. Night Sorrow looked at Sandalwood and asked, That's enough. Senior brother, did you send your son here because I was bored in the 9 regions world? That's not it. I just feel that with you guiding it would be easier for to become a talent. Sandalwood laughed and shook his head. Senior brother, can't you lie a little? That's right, if you lie, you wouldn't be senior brother anymore. Night Sorrow hooked his arm around Jean Yi's shoulder as they entered the manor. Update J is the fastest it on Y. Just as they entered, Yi Yujun arrived with July and Ning Yun. Night Sorrow introduced Jean-Yi to everyone and told the children not to bully Jean-Yi. He especially reminded Yi Xiaolei. After getting the servants to serve the dishes, Night Sorrow, Sandalwood and Yi sat at the main seats and started drinking and chatting. The three elders didn't put on airs and chatted casually while the juniors were also very excited. Today you guys should be happy. Tomorrow, it won't be like this. Ningyun, you should know that the members of Taishan Peak have a tradition of teaching their disciples. Tomorrow, this tradition will be carried out in this manner. Night Sorrow took a sip of wine and said, Senior brother, what is the tradition of Taishan Peak? Yi Xiaokei looked at Ningyun and asked. Rattan fried meat. When the martial uncles teach their disciples, they all have rattan in their hands. Ningyun glanced at Night Sorrow and said softly, Jade won't become anything if it's not cut. That's how it should be. Yi said. Martial aunt is right. My grandmaster once mentioned unintentionally that among all the disciples of Taishan Peak, only my master hasn't been hit by the rattan. Everyone else has been hit by it. Even I, Aoi, have been hit by it once. Ningyun said. After drinking, Sandalwood and Yi didn't stay any longer and left. Sandalwood was going to the god-slaying team while Yi was going to return to the world of reincarnation. Yi was now also managing some matters in the Qing Emperor's dynasty. After a night of rest, Night Sorrow fixed a rattan and gathered everyone. From today onwards, all of you have to cultivate well. Since your cultivation is different, the requirements will be different. If you can't meet the requirements, do as you see fit. Night Sorrow then gave everyone different requirements. On this day, many people heard chattering coming from the Realm Lord's manor. During the day, Night Sorrow was very strict. At night, Night Sorrow would set up the food and wine. Then, he would tell everyone about their lack of compatibility during the day, and point out what they needed to pay attention to during meditation. Night Sorrow would give specific instructions. 2 months later, Mo Tianji came back in high spirits. Seeing Mo Tianji like this, Night Sorrow knew that she had succeeded in passing the tribulation even though he couldn't see her cultivation level. After hearing Night Sorrow's congratulations, Mo Tianji smiled. If I had passed the tribulation somewhere else, I would have failed. It was a crucial moment. The life source of my 9-domain world absorbed some energy from the 9-domain world and helped me withstand the last lightning tribulation. I owe it to the 9-domain world. It's good that you passed the tribulation safely. Now, let's prepare for the god-slaying tribulation. We don't have much time. Night Sorrow said. Okay, I will cultivate in seclusion near the Heaven Sealing Hall. Call me if there's a battle. I will first cultivate a clone and then merge with my soul. However, it will take about 50 years in real life. Mo Tianji said. Night Sorrow smiled and let Mo Tianji cultivate. After the 9 Emperor tribulation, merging with one's soul was a path she had to take. Mo Tianji didn't have a clone at the moment. She had to cultivate a clone before merging with her soul. This way, her strength would be different after merging with one's soul. With nothing else to do, Night Sorrow led a quiet life. Every day, other than cultivating the limitless spear arts, he would use the rattan to guide his children, disciples, and Jean-Yi. After 10 years, the first person to comprehend 10% of the power of heaven and earth in the Heaven Sealing Hall appeared. It was Sikong Chuyu. Night Sorrow was worried about Sikong Chuyu's tribulation, so he brought Sikong Chuyu to the city in the sky. Sikong Chuyu had been by Night Sorrow's side all these years. His cultivation level was very stable and his combat ability was strong. With the leakless body that Night Sorrow imparted to him, there was no danger during the tribulation. He used 3 days to pass the wind and fire tribulations and entered the Emperor realm. Looking at the nervous Yi Shang, Sikong Chuyu gave him a hug and said, "Thank you. I know what kind of talent I have. I don't even have the qualifications to enter rank 9. I only had this opportunity because I used the pill you gave me to change my talent, perception and spirituality, as well as your merit and luck." Chapter 2134. That was so many years ago. You still remember. Sikong Chuyu laughed. I'm not holding a grudge. I just find it funny. Night Sorrow shook his head. Sikong Chuyu then asked Night Sorrow if he wanted to go to the Sikong family. After thinking about it, Night Sorrow decided not to go. If he went, the Sikong family might cause a ruckus. There was no point. Sikong Chuyu did not ask. She also knew that Night Sorrow was not suitable to go to any family or power now. The 9 regions world needed balance. Night Sorrow could not show any friendliness because he did not go to the Night Moon Dynasty. Night Sorrow did not even go to the Night Moon Dynasty. Soon after, Yang Lei also came out of seclusion and successfully entered the imperial state. Night Sorrow asked Yang Lei to go to the Medicine Valley to take a look and pay respects to her master. Then I'll go back and show them what the Taishan Peak has been like all these years. Then I'll show them what I've done. Yang Lei's personality was still as straightforward as when she was young. She had not changed much over the years. Not only her personality, even when she walked on the streets, she still looked like a woman in her mid-20s. This was mainly because she had achieved success at a young age. Go. Consider the feelings of your master and senior brothers. Don't embarrass them. Night Sorrow laughed. Night Sorrow returned and received congratulations from his disciples, children, and Jean-E. Make good use of your time and work hard. There is no end to the path of cultivation. You can all become great emperors, Yishang encouraged everyone. His wives entered the imperial state one after the other. Only Aoi was left. She was also the one that Night Sorrow was least worried about. This was because Aoi had the best state of mind and the most solid cultivation. On this Night Sorrow's avatar in Tianhuang City received Lu Qi. Lu Qi's expression was solemn. An alien world that had never appeared before was connected to the celestial realm. A spatial passage had appeared, and alien cultivators had invaded. Although they had blocked them, the situation was not very optimistic. Our strongest opponent is the demonic winged clan. If we can withstand the demonic winged clan, then the invasion of an alien cultivator shouldn't be a problem, Night Sorrow said. Night Sorrow, there are some things you don't know. This is the end of the world, because such a foreign world shouldn't have appeared. Lu Qi shook his head. Don't worry, I'll lead my men to battle. Night Sorrow made his decision. It's not suitable for you to fight. You are the human sovereign, the law-enforcing patriarch of the Council of Patriarchs, and the young city lord of Heavenly Desolate City. You are the most suitable person to guard Heavenly Desolate City. I will fight, Lu Qi said. There are some things I'm not familiar with. It's better for Patriarch 7 to stay. I'll fight. That's settled. Night Sorrow made his decision. Lu Qi did not refute. After leaving Night Sorrow's residence, he immediately called for a council of patriarchs. Only after the council of patriarchs had been convened did someone come to inform Night Sorrow. When Night Sorrow arrived at the meeting room of Heavenly Desolate City, all the patriarchs of Heavenly Desolate City were present. Even a few grand elders of the mythical beast clan were present. Seeing Night Sorrow arrive, everyone present greeted him. Night Sorrow saw that there were no empty seats, but he could not stand. He felt a little awkward. There were empty seats for the city lord and the grand elder. Haha, interesting. Seeing Night Sorrow look for a seat but have no seats, the Golden Dragon King laughed. Lu Qi called for someone to add a chair for Yi Shang. Yi Shang didn't want to sit, but Lu Qi pushed him down. Lu Qi gave a brief introduction. The matters of the apocalypse were recorded in the ancient records. Then Night Sorrow stood up and said that he was going to fight with the Samsara Island. Night Sorrow wanted to fight, but many patriarchs did not agree. The city lord and the grand elder were not present. If something happened to Night Sorrow, they would not have the face to answer to the city lord and the grand elder. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation, Seniors, let's fight. If we are afraid of this and that, how can we fight against fate? A righteous person, a righteous heart, and a courageous heart. Things have not been competed, but things have been done. There is nothing that is impossible. I, Night Sorrow, have also fought all the way. One more battle won't hurt. Night Sorrow had made his decision. Lu Qi, don't worry about this. Night Sorrow is now at the tribulation of 3 emperors. He can fight against the tribulation of 4 emperors, and it will be difficult for the tribulation of 5 emperors to kill him. There is nothing to worry about. Let's study the tactics, the Golden Dragon King said. Well, let's do as the Golden Dragon King said. I will follow when the time comes, Huang Ling said. Patriarch 7, I will go and gather the troops now. Also, I need information. Give me the information you can gather. Night Sorrow stated his request. Hearing Night Sorrow's words, Patriarch Green Rock stood up and accepted the mission. The space passage was closer to the Green Rock race. The members of the Green Rock race were fast and suitable to accept the mission. Then, Knight Sorrow asked about the current situation of the space passage. He learned that the Green Dragon King was guarding it with the Green Dragons and 3 Heaven Wasteland troops. We can defend it now, but we don't have enough offensive power. If we mobilize the troops of Heaven Wasteland City, the Demon Winged Race will take action. Then we will be attacked from both sides, Wuxia explained. I understand. We can't leave Samsara Island undefended. How about this? I'll lead the 2 armies of the Heaven Wasteland Army and the First Army into battle, said Knight Sorrow. Currently, the God-slaying team was also in the First Army. Aren't you going to take the Humanitarian League? Wuxia asked. It depends. If the situation is serious, we will have to take some people, Knight Sorrow said after thinking for a while. After discussing the details, Knight Sorrow left. After returning to the mansion, he issued a series of orders. On Samsara Island, Nan Yong and Shicheng troops would go to battle. The remaining 2 troops would guard 2 strongholds. In addition, the First Army and the God-slaying team would gather in Heaven Wasteland City. Knight Sorrow knew that the situation was not good. The main opponent of the 100 races of the Celestial Realm was the Demon Winged Race. If they were involved in other matters, the Demon Winged Race's attack would be troublesome. No one knew whether there were spies of the Demon Winged Race in the Celestial Realm. Once the news was leaked, the 100 races of the Celestial Realm would be attacked from both sides. Therefore, some things had to be resolved quickly. After the elders' meeting, Wuxia found Pu Luo, the Great Demon King, Lin Piaomiao, and the others. The Humanitarian League was in Shandu City and did not participate in the meeting. Wuxia told them about the crisis and Knight Sorrow's decision. He hoped that the Humanitarian League would follow. He was worried about Knight Sorrow's safety. We will think about it and make arrangements. Pu Luo nodded. After Wuxia left, Pu Luo and the others began to discuss. In the end, they decided that Lin Piaomiao, Pu Luo, and Yu Zhu would follow. The Great Demon King would guard the Humanitarian League. Knight Sorrow's original body cultivated while his doppelganger stood at the gate of Nirvana City. With the war before his eyes, Knight Sorrow was not nervous. His cultivation had increased rapidly, but he felt that he lacked actual combat. He should use actual combat to stabilize his cultivation and realm. His cultivation and realm were unstable, which was not a good thing for him. In addition, he felt that this apocalypse would be a test for his subordinates. Chapter 21:35. Hearing the voice of the world origin, Knight Sorrow returned to the Heaven Wasteland Tower. As soon as Knight Sorrow arrived in front of the Heaven Wasteland Tower, a wave of energy appeared, wrapped around his body, and disappeared. This made the Golden Dragon King, the Heavenly Astral King, Huang Ling, and Wuxia, who had just walked out of the Heaven Wasteland Sex Meeting Hall, look at each other. They naturally found out where Knight Sorrow had gone, and knew that Knight Sorrow had gone to the Heaven Wasteland space. The Heaven Wasteland space was the most mysterious area in the Heaven Wasteland City. It could give a title certification there. It was a place controlled by the Celestial Realm's origin. No one could enter without a title certification, not even the Heaven Wasteland City Lord. In the Heaven Wasteland space, Knight Sorrow saw the Celestial Realm's origin body. 2 chairs appeared, and the Celestial Realm's origin body invited Knight Sorrow to sit down. You know about the Doomsday Tribulation. It's only recorded in the ancient books. This tribulation is directed at the Celestial Realm and me. I'll tell you some things, the Celestial Realm's origin body said to Knight Sorrow. Knight Sorrow nodded and made a gesture of invitation. He knew that the Celestial Realm's origin body was telling the truth. Wuxia and the others inferred from the ancient books that this was the Doomsday Tribulation. They were not clear about the rest. The Doomsday Tribulation corresponds to the impact and destruction of the world. You cultivators can withstand it, but the world origin can't. Therefore, I'm going to reincarnate. If I come back in an era, then I'll be back. If I don't, then everything has nothing to do with me. Everything depends on you, the Celestial Realm's origin body said. Then what can I do? Knight Sorrow knew that the situation was serious. Fight. You must fight to the end and destroy the world where the Doomsday Tribulation is and bring the origin back, the Celestial Realm's origin body said, and then explained what the origin was. The origin was the core of a world's origin. Destiny stones, origin pearls, and world origin bodies were all manifestations of the origin. The impact of the world of tribulations on the world of tribulations was to plunder and erode the origin. Therefore, the origin body of the celestial realm had to undergo reincarnation before it was plundered and eroded. Good. I'll do my best. Knight Sorrow nodded. If he didn't know, he wouldn't say it. Now that he knew, Knight Sorrow would do his best. Just do your best. Also, before I reincarnate, I have something to give you. The absolute control of the Wasteland Tower will be yours from today onwards, as well as this sword. Also, many people don't know much about the Wasteland Tower. I'll tell you more about it and the God-destroying tribulation. A long sword appeared in the hands of the Celestial Realm's origin body, and then he handed it to Knight Sorrow. With the explanation of the Celestial Realm's origin body, Knight Sorrow understood that the Wasteland Tower used to be a building. Before the Shura Empress died, she merged her magic treasure with the Wasteland Tower to form the treasure of the 100 races of the Celestial Realm that suppressed the Wasteland City. She also gave the control of the tower to the Celestial Realm's origin body. The long sword was the Shura sword of the Shura Empress Yi Tianxin. It contained Yi Tianxin's swordsmanship and was the core of the Wasteland Tower's control. In addition, I'll tell you that some of the insights I gained from watching cultivators fight until they died were actually gained from your preaching. In the past, there were countless cultivators with amazing talents, such as Star Monarch, Lai Yan, Shurtian, and Yi Tianxing. They all walked the path that you denied in your preaching. They used their achievements to seek truth, and they used their achievements to suppress the Tao. That's why they all failed. Using one's achievements to suppress truth and Tao is not the right way of thinking. The right way should be to use one's principles to seek truth, and to use one's achievements to seek truth. The heavenly Tao cannot be destroyed. The Celestial Realm's origin body looked at Knight Sorrow and explained what he had learned. No matter how domineering the heavenly Tao is, it can't destroy truth and truth. This is the truth. Knight Sorrow understands what the Venerable said. Knight Sorrow nodded. If you said this, people would be confused. But you understand. You've also hit the nail on the head. You're a cultivator of the Emperor's tribulation, so you have truth. You're the Emperor of merit, so you have reason. On the other hand, those cultivators with great achievements in the past failed and died because they couldn't cultivate truth and reason. When your reason is greater than the heavens, then you can destroy the God's tribulation. Haha. The Celestial Realm's origin body laughed. Many thanks for the Venerable's teachings. Knight Sorrow stood up and cupped his hands to the Celestial Realm's origin body. You're wrong. What I'm talking about is actually your Tao. I'm explaining your Tao to you. Your Tao has given me a lot of inspiration. Take this origin bead. If it's destroyed, then I'll be gone. You can arrange everything in the Celestial Realm yourself. If it's not destroyed, then help me look after the Celestial Realm. Don't let evil things take over the nest, the Celestial Realm's origin body said to Knight Sorrow. It's more appropriate to give the Wasteland Tower to the City Lord. I'll take this origin bead, Knight Sorrow said after taking the origin bead. The Wasteland Tower has merged with the Celestial Realm. Without the world's origin energy, it can't unleash its full power. I've already told him. His decision is also in your control. The Grand Elder and King Yawu are both clear about this. They love you and don't want you to be under too much pressure. That's why they didn't tell you some things. They're also cultivators close to the God-destroying tribulation. Their lifespans are only in the last era. They won't be able to pass. Their fates are in your hands, the Celestial Realm's origin body said. A cultivator with a reincarnated lifespan has to undergo the baptism of the God-destroying tribulation. This is the rule. How can I change it? Knight Sorrow asked with some surprise. Passing the God-destroying tribulation, wielding the heavenly Tao, and controlling reincarnation. This is a prophecy. If you can pass the God-destroying tribulation, then it's possible to change this. Yi Tianxin's Shura sword isn't just a sword inheritance. It's also the core of this Wasteland Tower. After refining it, you'll understand everything. You have to be prepared. Yi Tianxin's Shura Tower was originally a top-notch heavenly Tao artifact. After it merged with the world, it was upgraded. You have the power of virtue in your body. After refining it, you might face the artifact-destroying tribulation. The rest is your problem. I can't do anything about it. All right, I won't say anything more. If fate wills it, we'll meet again. After speaking, the celestial realm's origin body dissipated. It completely dissipated and began his reincarnation. Night Sorrow's body flashed and stood at the top of the Wasteland Tower. Then, he activated the virtuous immortal body and let the virtuous golden light cover the sky. He hoped that his power of virtue would be able to increase the fate and virtue of the celestial realm's origin body's reincarnation cycle. W. Max $. New J Chapter. Section H Chapter. After activating the virtuous immortal body, Night Sorrow cupped his hands toward the void and said, "Universe Sovereign, take care. Night Sorrow will wait for your return here." The virtuous golden light covered the sky and alarmed the cultivators in the Wasteland City. The leaders of the Divine Beast clan also gathered together and looked at Night Sorrow in front of the Wasteland Tower. What's going on? He can actually reach the top of the Wasteland Tower? Lu Qi's face was full of shock. In the past, the sky above the Wasteland Tower was absolutely forbidden. The Wasteland City has changed. The celestial realm has changed, Huang Ling muttered. At this moment, the sky above the Wasteland City was full of red light. The red light and the virtuous golden light resonated and then slowly dissipated into the void. Chapter 21:36. Night Sorrow did not feel sad because everything was destined. 1,000 reincarnations was the lifespan of the sovereign world. After thinking for a while, Night Sorrow sat at the top of the Heaven Wasteland Tower. He placed the Shura sword on his knees and started refining the Heaven Wasteland Tower. After refining, Night Sorrow felt that something was wrong. The Shura sword was trembling and rejecting him. After thinking for a while, Night Sorrow felt that it was because he was a clone. Night Sorrow's main body stood up from the clear sky tower. After a few flashes, he arrived at the top of the Heaven Wasteland Tower and met up with his clone. Then, he started refining the Shura sword. This guy is addicted to sitting in the tower. He used to sit in his own clear sky tower, but now he's even sitting in the Heaven Wasteland Tower? Xiao Jun, who had also rushed over, said, "Can't you see the situation? The origin world sovereign of the celestial realm has already handed over the control of the Heaven Wasteland Tower." The Golden Dragon King glanced at Xiao Jun, killing intent. An incomparably cold battle intent and killing intent followed Night Sorrow's soul power and attacked Night Sorrow's spirit sea. His soul power could not block it. Night Sorrow activated the virtuous immortal body and used the power of virtue to attack the Shura sword. The Shura sword was the core of the Heaven Wasteland Tower. When Night Sorrow's soul fire entered the Shura sword, the virtuous fire appeared on the surface of the Heaven Wasteland Tower and burned fiercely. Vayu Hedo Hair R. After refining, Night Sorrow discovered the soul imprint left behind by Yi Tianxin. It was a woman wearing a golden robe and holding a long sword. After roaming the celestial realm for countless years, I was unable to break through the demon imperial city. My heart is filled with regret. Even if I am invincible in the world, I still feel powerless in the face of the God annihilation tribulation. My heart is filled with regret. After experiencing so much, I understand that although I can dominate the world with great achievements, I cannot overcome the heavenly Tao tribulation. The future generations will learn from this. Yi Tianxin's voice appeared in Night Sorrow's spirit sea. Night Sorrow thanks Senior for your guidance. Night Sorrow replied. To Night Sorrow's surprise, Yi Tianxin's soul imprint actually nodded at him. Spiritual intelligence. Night Sorrow was extremely shocked. This was because the soul imprints left behind by cultivators who had completely perished could only leave behind some information. They didn't have any intelligence. However, Yi Tianxin's soul imprint could respond to his words. This was a sign that it had intelligence. Senior, you didn't fall? Night Sorrow's soul power vibrated as he asked. Yi Tianxin, who was wearing a golden crown, smiled at Night Sorrow, but did not respond. The heavenly Tao heart is the heavenly Tao heart, and the heavenly Tao heart is the heavenly Tao. I understood this a little late. The 100 races of the celestial realm still have to rely on outstanding latecomers like you. Work hard. I look forward to seeing you wield the heavenly Tao and control reincarnation. Night Sorrow, what a good name. After leaving behind these words, Yi Tianxin's figure suddenly disappeared. It was a sudden disappearance, but not a dissipation. Yi Tianxin's soul disappeared. Night Sorrow's heart was greatly shocked. He was certain that Yi Tianxin had not completely perished. After completely perishing, the soul imprint would not have intelligence. Knight Sorrow pondered. But he did not stop refining the Wasteland Pagoda. The members of the 100 Races Alliance in the Wasteland Pagoda all retreated without any notice. They looked at the Wasteland Pagoda in the blazing flames of the fire of virtue and were extremely shocked. That was the divine artifact of the 100 races of the celestial realm. It had not changed much for many years. But today, Knight Sorrow appeared at the top of the pagoda, where it used to be, and the fire of virtue also appeared. The fire of virtue shuttled back and forth in the Wasteland Pagoda, constantly baptizing and refining the Wasteland Pagoda. Knight Sorrow also saw the original version of the Heavenly Guide Swordway in the Azura Sword. Knight Sorrow also understood what Yi Tianxin's final pursuit was. What he sought the most was to use Tao to control Tao, to guide the Heavenly Tao to counter the Heavenly Tao. As for the result, Knight Sorrow knew that he did not succeed, because he had disappeared in the long river of history. However, the original version of the Heavenly Guide Swordway had a great impact on Knight Sorrow. Yi Tianxin cultivated the Tao of Beginning, which had a taboo attribute. As he understood, some insights appeared in Knight Sorrow's mind. The Tao of Beginning was rapidly improving. However, this was only for a short period of time, because the Wasteland Pagoda was upgraded after being baptized by the fire of virtue. Tribulation clouds appeared in the sky. The weapon tribulation had arrived. The upgrade of the Wasteland Pagoda had triggered the weapon tribulation of the Heavenly Tao. Knight Sorrow stood at the top of the Wasteland Pagoda and looked at the Heavenly Tribulation. His heart was filled with emotions. The Heavenly Tribulation was a nightmare for all cultivators. It was something that no one was willing to face. It was also something that everyone pursued. Tribulation. This is Tao, and also the tribulation of Tao. And I, Knight Sorrow, not only pursue Tao, I also pursue reason. Tao is great, reason is great, reason is the greatest. Today, I, Knight Sorrow, will protect and nurse the Tao. I have reason in my body. I will not avoid the Heavenly Tribulation. Back off. Knight Sorrow raised his head and shouted. Words were law. The tribulation clouds stopped pressing down and instead floated up. Break. Knight Sorrow waved his arm and the Azura sword flew out. The Azura sword with the golden light of virtue grew bigger and bigger. With a mighty and upright aura, it slashed towards the tribulation clouds in the sky. Golden light flashed and the tribulation clouds were cut into two halves. Slash again. Knight Sorrow raised his right arm and slashed towards the sky again. A golden sword light appeared and slashed out again. After the dark clouds parted, the bright moon could be seen. The tribulation clouds in the sky were broken by Knight Sorrow's two slashes, and the sun that was covered by the tribulation clouds appeared. The tribulation clouds dispersed. After breaking through the tribulation clouds, Knight Sorrow sat on the top of the shining Heaven Wasteland Tower and began to cultivate. Shocking everything. Knight Sorrow's words and actions shocked everyone in Heaven Wasteland City and subverted everyone's beliefs. In the past, when the Heavenly Tribulation appeared, it was not their own tribulation. Everyone would stay far away from it because they could not interfere with the Heavenly Tribulation. However, when the weapon tribulation of the Heaven Wasteland Tower arrived, Knight Sorrow did not avoid it and directly faced it head-on. With a word and two slashes, he resolved the Heavenly Tribulation and forced it back. From the beginning to the end, the tribulation clouds did not send out a single lightning tribulation. When all the cultivators were muddle-headed, Knight Sorrow had already understood and comprehended. Tao is great, reason is great, reason is the greatest. The Golden Dragon King murmured. Is it wrong to say that Tao is great? The Heavenly Astral King looked at the Golden Dragon King. Knight Sorrow said that reason is the greatest. It is not easy for us to analyze this conclusion, but in fact, his words are the law. It is reason. The Golden Dragon King said. We understand Tao, but where can we find this reason? Lu Qi was also a little confused. You ask us, but who should we ask? Let's wait for Knight Sorrow to not be busy and ask Knight Sorrow. The Golden Dragon King looked at the figure on the Heaven Wasteland Tower and said. Knight Sorrow stayed at the top of the Heaven Wasteland Tower and fell into deep thought. Recently, his comprehension was too deep. It could even be said that it was a painful comprehension. It was the comprehension that the predecessors had paved with their blood and lives. This time, Yi Shang spent 3 days comprehending the Heaven Wasteland Pagoda and had a better understanding of it. The Heaven Wasteland Tower did not have a weapon spirit, but it had a core. The Shura sword was the core. Controlling the Shura sword meant controlling the Heaven Wasteland Tower. In addition, the Heaven Wasteland Tower was an immovable treasure like the Heaven Sealing Great Hall and the Reincarnation Palace. The meaning of its existence was to guard the Heaven Wasteland City. Chapter 21:37. Night Sorrow, what's the situation? The Golden Dragon King asked. It's a long story. Let's talk in my mansion. Night Sorrow nodded at them and left with his original body to continue cultivating on the Nirvana Ocean Bridge. His avatar led the group into his mansion and told them about the apocalypse tribulation and the situation of the Heaven Wasteland Tower. The origin of the celestial realm has left. We can only rely on ourselves in this era, the Heavenly Astral King said. The others nodded. The current situation was indeed very grim. Night Sorrow, what happened to you just now? Huang Ling looked at Night Sorrow and asked. Night Sorrow smiled and told her about the weapon calamity. When the Heaven Wasteland Tower was upgraded, it had the Merit Taoist rhyme. The power of the heavenly tribulation wasn't great and was equivalent to the Emperor Tribulation. His merit cultivation was at the Merit Emperor realm. He could suppress it a little but couldn't solve it completely. Amazing! That means you can solve the heavenly Tao below the Emperor Tribulation with just a word. Huang Ling looked at Night Sorrow with envy. I can't use it carelessly. I can only speak louder when I'm reasonable. If I'm unreasonable, I probably can't even open my mouth. Night Sorrow smiled. As they chatted, the Golden Dragon King and the others asked about the principles and Tao. Night Sorrow didn't hide anything and gave them a rough explanation. Of course, it was one thing to understand it and another to apply it. Night Sorrow, you can control the Heaven Wasteland Tower. Let me lead the people to battle. No one is more suitable than you to guard the Heaven Wasteland City, Lu Qi said. It's the same old plan. My original body will stay behind to guard the Heaven Wasteland City, and my avatar will lead the people to battle. I have the origin of the world and am sensitive to the origin of the outer realm. I will find it, wipe out its evil aura, and bring it back. Night Sorrow didn't waver in his determination to battle. Lu Qi looked at the others. Since they didn't say anything, he didn't say anything either. He knew that Night Sorrow's realm was lower than his, but his combat strength wasn't any weaker than his. Using Night Sorrow's words, it made sense. The two armies of the Samsara Island arrived at the Heavenly Desolate City and entered their encampment. The First Army and the God-Slaying team also arrived at the mansion. Night Sorrow informed them to make preparations for the battle. They had to keep up with the supply of resources and pills. They would depart in 2 days. Although there was still no news, Night Sorrow knew that he couldn't keep waiting. Would he not fight without news? That would delay the battle. 2 days later, Night Sorrow's clone left Heavenly Desolate City with the Clear Sky Pagoda and the 9 Regions Origin Pearl. Doing so would not delay the cultivation of his main body because cultivating at the top of the Heaven Wasteland Pagoda would achieve the same effect as cultivating on the Nirvana Ocean Bridge. Besides, the Heaven Wasteland Pagoda's radiation area was large. Night Sorrow could sense the area where his soul merged with the heaven and earth on the Nirvana Ocean Bridge. The battle team set off. Heavenly Desolate City was still as peaceful as ever. What was different was that there was a figure at the top of the Heaven Wasteland Pagoda. It was a figure wrapped in all kinds of golden characters. Night Sorrow would sometimes stand up and perform some of the Wuji spear arts. He continued to draw in the Wuji energy for analysis. Night Sorrow's clone led the team to the Green Rock Race's territory. Using the teleportation array set up by the Green Rock Race, they arrived at the entrance of the Doomsday Realm and the Celestial Realm. Seeing Night Sorrow, Long Yixing and Tian Yunsong, who were guarding the place, cupped their hands and greeted Night Sorrow. Their seniority and cultivation were higher than Night Sorrow's, but Night Sorrow was the human sovereign. In terms of status, he had surpassed them. Night Sorrow cupped his hands and returned the greeting. He ordered the soldiers behind him to set up camp. He needed to understand more before he could bring the team to battle. On the second day after Night Sorrow brought the team, Forefather Green Rock came back with a few of his people. After returning, he went directly to Night Sorrow's tent. Patriarch Night, the situation is not very good. We don't know the origin of the outer realm. There are many cultivators there, and their levels are very high. A large number of 9th rank cultivators, and there are also sovereign and sovereign tribulation experts. I have already seen cultivators of the tribulation of 3 sovereigns, Forefather Green Rock said. Old Ancestor Green Rock said with a solemn expression. That was because the tribulation of 3 emperors was already an incredible expert. If it's the tribulation of 3 sovereigns or 4 sovereigns, then I can lead the team to kill them. If it's any higher, it won't be possible. They will be a threat to our team. It will be very difficult to kill them. Night Sorrow said. It's hard to say. We don't know what the hell is going on. After all, we haven't experienced anything like this before. Forefather Green Rock cursed. Yeah, we haven't experienced anything like this before. However, we have to walk our own path. It might be very difficult. If we look back after we walk past it, perhaps it will be a very interesting path. Who is the formation Dao expert here? Night Sorrow didn't have any thoughts of retreating. The apocalypse was coming, and there was no way to avoid it. In addition, he felt that the spatial tunnel needed to be sealed. Although it couldn't completely block the aura of the apocalypse from corroding the celestial realm, it could at least affect it a little. We have an Imperial Emperor-level formation master in the Azure Dragons. Long Yixing said. Tell him to hurry up and set up a sealing formation here. Don't ask for too much. In fact, it can't be sealed. Just control it to the extent that it can be controlled. The cost of setting up the formation can be obtained from the Tianhuang city. Night Sorrow said. Long Yixing went to make the arrangements. Night Sorrow returned to the tent that Tianyu, Long Jin, and Lin Chuan had set up. Brother 13, when are we going to start the war? Tianyu asked. We'll set off tomorrow morning. I originally thought that since our cultivation bases have increased, it would be easier to deal with any difficulties we encounter. However, I've discovered that that's not the case. We are strong, but so are our opponents. Yi Shan lamented. Don't worry. We are brothers. There's nothing we can't solve. We will kill our way in. Long Jin said. Night Sorrow nodded at Long Jin. Long Jin's way of thinking was relatively simple. He would never avoid or retreat when there was a problem. Translator, Sparrow Translations Editor. Sparrow Translations. Night Sorrow called the leaders of the teams into the tent. Everyone, some of you have fought with me many times. Some of you have only fought once or twice. This time, we are going to fight again. I won't hide the situation from everyone. It's not good. Be prepared. The only thing I can do is to fight with everyone and not leave anyone behind. Commander, the 2 of us have not fought with you for a long time. However, we definitely have the fighting spirit that we should have. Nan Yong said. I believe in everyone. Go back and prepare. We will start the war tomorrow morning. Night Sorrow nodded at the few of them. Night Sorrow then went to the camp of the god-slaying team. Seeing that a portion of the team was missing, Night Sorrow felt a little uncomfortable. The members of the god-slaying team knew Night Sorrow well and didn't say anything. Chapter 21:38. We will wait for our brothers to return, Guanyi said. Not just wait, 12th senior brother. When I entered the sect, I understood something. Sometimes living is not for yourself, but for the people around you. For the people who love you and care about you. Death is not scary. Once you close your eyes, you won't know anything. It's the people around you who are sad. For the people who love you and care about you, don't be sad. Don't be sad. Live well, Night Sorrow said to Guanyi. Night Sorrow had indeed learned this from Guanyi. Back then, Night Sorrow only had Gugu's father by his side. He didn't care much about life and death. But after seeing Guanyi's death affect the sadness of the disciples of Taishan Peak, he was touched. All the members of the god-slaying team nodded. They all understood what Night Sorrow said. Night Sorrow's ability to think in other people's shoes was one of the reasons they trusted Night Sorrow the most. Coming out of the god-slaying team's base, Night Sorrow saw Pu Luo, Lin Piaomiao, and Yu Zhu. Night Sorrow knew they were worried about him, so he didn't refuse and arranged for the 3 of them to stay. After a night's rest, Night Sorrow led the team into the world of tribulations. Night Sorrow felt it would be better to solve the problem in the world of tribulations as soon as possible. The 100 races of the celestial realm should focus on the Devil Wing clan, which was the biggest threat. Night Sorrow didn't split up this time because it would be difficult to deal with the experts. He believed in Pu Luo and Lin Piaomiao's strength, but he still didn't want to take the risk. Not long after they entered the world of tribulations, the battle began. There were many cultivators in the world of tribulations, and their cultivation levels were also high. Night Sorrow didn't make a move and let his subordinates fight in formation. Night Sorrow was mentally prepared for the strong opponents. If the opponents weren't strong, they wouldn't have become the Celestial Realm's tribulation. They wouldn't have qualified to become a tribulation. Night Sorrow was also observing the battle. At the same time, he also learned that the difficulty of the battle was different, and the rewards would be different. After killing the cultivators in the world of tribulations, the crystal cores obtained by Night Sorrow's subordinates contained very pure energy, which was especially suitable for absorption and absorption. In the Heaven Realm, there were things like killing opponents to obtain crystal cores, but only low-level cultivators would do it. High-level cultivators would not do it. If they did so, they would be labeled as unscrupulous demons and become the public enemy of the Heaven Realm. Naturally, this rule did not apply in the world of tribulations. During the battle, Night Sorrow and his men kept pushing forward. Whenever an Emperor Tribulation cultivator appeared, Night Sorrow would attack. This was because the Emperor Tribulation cultivator was not a challenge to him, and there was no need for him to sharpen himself. It was better to let his men fight and sharpen themselves. Nd Pu Luo, Lin Piaomiao, and Yu Zhu often discussed cultivation problems with Yi Shang. Yi Shang defined it as a discussion, but in reality, Pu Luo and the other two were asking for advice. This was because Yi Shang talked to them about the problems of reason, which was a field they didn't understand. For Pu Luo, Lin Piaomiao, and Yu Zhu, it was not difficult to understand. They were cultivators, and the key was that they didn't know much about principles. Night Sorrow's principles came from the body of merits, but they didn't have the body of merits. Night Sorrow told the three of them his understanding. He didn't think that only cultivators with the body of merits could cultivate principles. Principles existed everywhere in the world. As long as one's heart was righteous, as long as one cultivated morality, the principles would be in one's body. Pu Luo, Lin Piaomiao, and Yu Zhu could only cultivate morality and morality. During the battle, Night Sorrow led the team forward. When they had advanced far enough, Night Sorrow would set up a transmission formation. He couldn't let the team be disconnected from the rear. They had to communicate at all times and share information. The transmission was convenient, and the supply of resources would not be a problem. As they advanced, Night Sorrow also guided everyone's cultivation. They had cultivated to the level of tribulation of 3 emperors, and they had many attributes. Night Sorrow had no problem guiding everyone's cultivation. Moreover, battle formations were first promoted by Night Sorrow. He was the originator of battle formations. Night Sorrow also often activated the 9-region origin bead to sense the area where the origin of tribulation was. Only when he obtained the origin of Tribulation Realm could the Tribulation Realm cause the least damage to the Celestial Realm. Thus, the Celestial Realm's origin would not be harmed. Of course, the origin of the Celestial Realm no longer existed, and it had begun to reincarnate. While guiding others in their cultivation, Yi Shang was also learning and using other strengths to strengthen himself. Yi Shang had never looked down on anyone, even if there were many cultivators whose cultivation was lower than his. He knew that everyone was good at different things, so he could learn from others' thoughts. After setting up camp, while Night Sorrow was thinking about how to find the origin of Tribulation Realm, Lin Piaomiao and Yu Zhu entered his tent and asked Night Sorrow about the Wasteland Tower. They had just learned about it. Night Sorrow never hid anything from the people around him. He told them what had happened recently. That means you now have control of the Celestial Realm's strongest treasure, the Wasteland Tower? Yu Zhu asked excitedly. Yes. I didn't want to accept it, but the truth is that the Wasteland Tower can only be used by cultivators who have the origin of Tribulation Realm. I had no choice but to accept it. Night Sorrow nodded. Legend has it that if you control the Wasteland Tower, you can learn Yi Tianxin's secret technique. Alliance Leader, what did you learn? After Yi Tianxin fell, only the Peerless Sword Emperor received the inheritance. Yu Zhu was more interested in this. The Heavenly Sword Technique. I have practiced it before, but I don't think the most precious thing she left behind is the Heavenly Sword Technique. It is her own understanding. Also, I suspect that Yi Tianxin didn't fall, but I can't say for sure. Night Sorrow said. Are you saying that the Shura Empress Yi Tianxin didn't fall? Yu Zhu looked at Night Sorrow strangely. She was shocked by this news. In the past, there were many amazing cultivators in the celestial realm. These people didn't come from the same time period, so there was no way to rank them. However, in everyone's impression, the celestial realm's most glorious period was when the Shura race ruled the celestial realm. The Shura Empress Yi Tianxin's reputation was higher than the others. She fought her way into the Demon Imperial City. The Demon Winged race didn't have any territory other than the Demon Imperial City. Now that Night Sorrow said that Yi Tianxin didn't fall, Yu Zhu and Lin Piaomiao were naturally shocked. Then, Night Sorrow told them why he came to this conclusion. But there hasn't been any news of her for countless years. Emperor Realm cultivators don't go through the god-destroying trial. Their lifespan is fixed, Yu Zhu said. The demon ancestor was a cultivator a long time ago. He is currently in a deep sleep. When his soul returns, he will wake up. His lifespan has long passed the fixed lifespan. It is possible that Yi Tianxin exists in another way. Night Sorrow shook his head. Chapter 2139. 20/original K version. H version benefits? Haha. It's not fun to talk about it. Night Sorrow laughed. Tell us, Lin Piaomiao asked. What we can see and feel is the acquisition of resources. Fighting against the cultivators of the Tribulation Realm is different from our battles in the past. They carry a lot of resources with them. The energy contained in their crystal cores far surpasses that of the Saint Spirit Stones. In terms of level, they should be on par with the Emperor Spirit Stones and Monarch Spirit Stones that only exist in the early stages of the Heaven Realm, Yishan said. The current currency in the Celestial Realm was the Holy Spirit Stones. The better ones were the highest grade Holy Spirit Stones, but none of them exceeded the limit of the Holy Spirit Stones. Among the resources in the Heavenly Barren City, there were high-grade spiritual stones. However, they were used in special times to set up formations. High-grade spiritual stones like Lord Spirit Stones and Emperor Spirit Stones were once produced in the Celestial Realm. However, that was during the Golden Age of the Celestial Realm. There were some during the first 700 reincarnations. During the last 300 reincarnations, the origin of the Celestial Realm stabilized the energy of the realm and stopped producing high-grade spiritual stones. Therefore, high-grade spiritual stones were nowhere to be found. The storage of high-grade Holy Spirit Stones in the Celestial Realm was getting smaller and smaller. During the last 300 reincarnations of the Celestial Realm, the 100 Races Alliance in the Celestial Realm had almost used up all the high-grade spiritual stones they had stored in order to fight against the Demon Wing clan. So you're saying that the level of spiritual stones we kill depends on the level of the opponent we kill? Yu Zhu asked. Yi Shang shook his head and corrected him. Killing opponents in the Tribulation Realm would give him crystal cores equivalent to high-level spirit stones, not spirit stones. The Celestial Realm no longer produces high-grade spiritual stones. Since the Tribulation Realm is not the end of the world, will there be high-grade spiritual stone mines? Yu Zhu asked excitedly. We're here to solve the end of the world. You want high-grade spiritual stone mines? What a big heart. Fighting for the Celestial Realm will give you the merit of the apocalypse. Fighting for the Celestial Realm will give you the fortune of the Celestial Realm. Fighting for the 100 Races of the Celestial Realm will give you the fortune of the 100 Races of the Celestial Realm. Fighting for the 100 Races of the Celestial Realm will give you the fortune of the 100 Races of the Celestial Realm. The apocalypse is different from other times. This is a special time. It is a time that requires hard work. Hard work will make it easier to obtain some things. This is the great era that the Grand Elder spoke of. Night Sorrow explained to the two. Let's fight. This world is the place for us to make a name for ourselves. Kill them. Yu Zhu waved her arm. Night Sorrow, I've realized that you've really changed. You don't say things easily, but the words you say are all logical. Lin Piaomiao sized up Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow looked at himself. He didn't think so. Virtuous Emperor, you have principles. Your words are the truth, Pu Luo said after entering the tent. Night Sorrow smiled. He brewed a pot of tea and they chatted. The Humanitarian League had been around for a long time. They were all like-minded brothers. Over the years, they didn't even disagree, let alone argue. Night Sorrow, you have to hold on. We'll have no problem passing the Emperor's trial. We still have a lot of lifespan left. But you have to work hard. Yu Zhu's voice was choking. In her eyes, Night Sorrow had many identities. But there was one that others didn't know. She looked at Night Sorrow like a little brother. Don't worry. I think that as long as you work hard, there's nothing you can't do. With perseverance and determination, there's no path you can't walk. You have to believe me. I, Yishang, will definitely leave behind a different and thick stroke in this great era. Yishang extended his fist towards the group. Pu Luo and the others also raised their fist and bumped Night Sorrow's fist. Night Sorrow's soul power was very strong. He separated the team and pushed forward in the area covered by his soul power. He did this to increase efficiency. Battles kept happening. The cultivators in the Tribulation Realm noticed them because Night Sorrow and the others' auras didn't blend with the Tribulation Realm. As they moved forward, more and more battles happened. Their target's cultivation was also getting stronger. Night Sorrow was ready to fight. He waved his blood-Qilin evil slaying spear and killed the cultivators in the Tribulation Realm. He was the most efficient. The other Emperor's trial cultivators didn't have as many kills as him. He also collected a lot of high-level crystal cores. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. Night Sorrow felt that his efficiency was still low. He didn't know how big the Tribulation Realm was. If he was slow, he would waste a lot of time. After thinking for a while, Night Sorrow made a few communication tokens and gave them to Pu Luo, Lin Piaomiao, and Yu Zhu. After a month of training, Night Sorrow decided to split them up to increase efficiency. Night Sorrow gave the 2 commands to Lin Piaomiao and Yu Zhu. He gave the first command to Pu Luo and led the God-slaying team. This was based on strength. The members of the 2 commands were mainly emperors. Some of the captains were already emperors. Night Sorrow let Yu Zhu and Lin Piaomiao, who were relatively weaker, lead them. The first command followed Pu Luo. The first command had fewer people but was relatively stronger. The God-slaying team was the most cohesive and had the best teamwork. However, there were some obvious shortcomings. They had fewer people and their individual cultivation was lower than the other 3 teams. Therefore, Night Sorrow decided to lead the team himself. Night Sorrow believed in his own strength, so he decided to lead the weakest. Night Sorrow made the following arrangements. Pu Luo led the first command to the left, followed by Yu Zhu's team. Then he led the God-slaying team. Lin Piaomiao led the Nanyong Unified Heaven Wasteland Army to the right. Night Sorrow made this arrangement in order to save time. Pu Luo was the strongest, so he was relatively far away from him. Lin Piaomiao and Yu Zhu were close to him. Night Sorrow also set the distance. Each team was 2 million miles apart. Within this distance, if there was a call for help, he would be able to rush over in a moment. There was another reason for setting the distance of 2 million miles. After a month of fighting, Yishang found that the cultivators at the level of sovereign tribulation between the Heaven Realm and the Tribulation Realm had a sensing range of 1 million miles. Every team was 200 miles away from each other, so the sensing range of the intersecting chi could be used to scan the area. No sovereign tribulation cultivators would be able to escape. Night Sorrow also explained the reason for this arrangement. Night Sorrow's decision was supported by Pu Luo and the others. After the arrangements were made, the team set off. Night Sorrow's team was the last to set off. He just needed to set off directly and didn't need to move horizontally. Lin Chuan, Tianyu, you 2 will be the scouts. Long Jin, you lead the team. The others will fight according to the orders. Our goal is very simple. Kill all the people in this tribulation realm, Night Sorrow said. Lin Chuan, Tianyu, and Long Jin nodded and accepted the order. Lin Chuan, Long Hao, Lin Yun, and Duan Qianshui all joined the Samsara Island. Long Hao and Duan Qianshui joined the other 2 commands. Lin Chuan and Lin Yun stayed in the God-slaying team. Chapter 2140. Among the members of the God-slaying team, Long Jin had the strongest commanding ability and was also the most stable. Night Sorrow trusted him the most. Captain, our original bodies are still cultivating. If we come later, we can increase our efficiency, said Liang Yu. That's right. Our original bodies aren't here, so our fighting strength isn't at its peak. Yun Huang had the same idea as Liang Yu. The god-slaying team was fighting alone. They wanted the glory of the god-slaying team to continue. They didn't want to be looked down upon by others, even if it was a team of brothers. Latest chapter. Previous chapter undersir. No need. Your original bodies should continue cultivating. This concerns your future achievements. We can't delay our future because of one battle. Knight Sorrow shook his head and rejected Liang Yu and Yun Huang's suggestion. After closing his eyes and drinking half a jar of wine, Knight Sorrow led the team out. The members of the god-slaying team realized that Knight Sorrow had changed. Previously, Knight Sorrow's aura was calm and deep. Now, it was sharp and full of killing intent. He didn't even hesitate to change his route. As long as an emperor rank or above cultivator appeared within the range of his soul power, Knight Sorrow would kill them all. The members of the god-slaying team all felt Knight Sorrow's change. It was the same state when Knight Sorrow led the team 700 years ago. The feeling is back. This is how we felt back then, said Yun Huang with deep emotions. Everyone's state of mind is different at every time. Captain's cultivation and realm have increased, so the change is greater, said Lei Bao. That's right. We're all growing up. Everyone is different from back then. Back then, we were a bunch of hotheads. Now, we all have families and children. Many of us are even great ancestors. Yun Zheng sighed. Lei Bao, Lei Zheng, Liu He, Ho Jian, Knight Sorrow and I should apologize to you. It's mainly because of me. Knight Sorrow slept for 700 years. During those 700 years, I didn't have the mood to deal with anything. During these 700 years, the development of the Medicine Valley was a bit excessive. You guys have suffered, said Yang Lei to Lei Bao and the others. At this moment, Knight Sorrow was not around, so she wanted to speak up for Knight Sorrow. Ninth senior sister. You're thinking too much. We do have families and sects, but it's fine as long as our sects and families can exist peacefully. If there really is a great crisis, we'll speak up. Nan Liu said. Last time when he mentioned that the Nandu sect had become the Nandu clan, he was in a lot of pain, Yang Lei said to Nan Liu. Ninth senior sister, in fact, only the Taishan Peak can represent the Medicine Valley. If Taishan Peak doesn't do anything, the other peaks will only make a move. They don't dare to exterminate families and families. So we know what to do. When the Nandu sect became the Nandu clan, my father also talked to me. I don't think there's anything wrong with developing elites. Also, we don't have to worry. Knight Sorrow is our brother. If there really is a crisis, he can resolve it by speaking up. Nan Liu hugged Yang Lei. Some things did happen in the eastern Xian region, but Nan Liu and the others really didn't blame anyone. They knew in their hearts that some things could be resolved by speaking up. They also didn't blame the Yi family or Knight Sorrow's wives. Because when Knight Sorrow was in a deep sleep, the Yi family had already been silent and didn't have much interaction with the outside world. With you guys as my brothers and sisters, I have nothing to say. Yang Lei nodded to Nan Liu and the others. Ninth senior sister, you have to be mentally prepared. Our Thunder Rumbling sect is developing again. The Thunder Rumbling sect will avoid the Taishan Peak, but they will have to give back the territories that were taken by the other peaks in the Medicine Valley. If they go and invite that Grand Supreme Xiang, then we won't be polite either, Lei Bao said. Xiang Tianding was the king, but Lei Bao and Lei Zheng were both emperors. If they fought, the Medicine Valley would still be at a disadvantage. One had to know that most of the emperors in the Medicine Valley were from the Taishan Peak. Even if they weren't from the Taishan Peak, the Qin Zhen would still follow Knight Sorrow's lead. Do as you see fit. Knight Sorrow said that other than the mountain gate of the Medicine Valley, he won't care about anything else. However, don't touch Zhuyuan City. That's our Yi family's territory, Yang Lei said with a smile. Haha. Of course not. Even if it's the other peaks in the Medicine Valley, we will still give them some face. It's best if they keep a low profile. It's better to develop an organization by relying on elites. The Night Moon Dynasty is a typical example. They don't have many members, but who dares to look down on them? Ho Jian said. Although they were chatting, it didn't affect the battle. The god-slaying team didn't have many members, but they advanced quickly. They fought together. In terms of teamwork, if the god-slaying team said they were second, no one would dare to say they were first. The main reason was that Knight Sorrow was also very fast. Cultivators at the same cultivation level as Night Sorrow couldn't compare to him in terms of attack power and lethality. Those at a lower cultivation level would be killed instantly because Night Sorrow's speed and attack power didn't give his opponents a chance to defend themselves. Night Sorrow was often not in the team. Most of the time he fought alone. He didn't worry about the god-slaying team being in danger. Even if the distance was beyond the detection range of his soul power, he could still sense the aura. If an Imperial Tribulation Realm opponent appeared in the god-slaying team's area, he would be able to detect it immediately and rush back in time. As they advanced, Night Sorrow often went to support the other teams. Pu Luo had the cultivation level of Tribulation 4 Emperors, and his combat power was very strong. He could take care of some opponents. Night Sorrow mainly supported Yuzhu and Lin Piaomiao's teams. Night Sorrow told Lin Piaomiao and Yuzhu to inform him if a cultivator above Tribulation 2 Emperors appeared. As the four teams advanced, more and more Tribulation Realm cultivators were killed. Night Sorrow found that the Tribulation Realm was similar to the Celestial Realm. There were many different races of cultivators, but there was a pattern. They were all under a unified command and seemed to be moving toward the spatial tunnel. This situation made Night Sorrow realize that the Tribulation Realm was mobilizing people toward the Celestial Realm to start an attack. He even felt that the spatial tunnel might already be under attack. However, Night Sorrow didn't plan to go back to help. Even if he had set up a transmission formation on the way of the god-slaying team, it would be very convenient for him to go back to help. He planned to continue killing his way in and solve the fundamental problem. The battle continued and the killing continued. At this time, no one was soft-hearted because this was a war without right or wrong. This was the war for the Celestial Realm to survive the Doomsday Tribulation. On this day, after Yi Shang killed a second sovereign tribulation cultivator, he sensed another opportunity. Following the sense, he sensed that the cultivator from the Tribulation Realm had a much higher cultivation level than him. It should be a Tribulation 5 Emperor's cultivator. After chasing over to see the situation, Night Sorrow was shocked. He had hit a big fish and caused trouble. He met an army led by a Tribulation 5 Emperor's cultivator. At this time, the army stopped. Countless cultivators from the Tribulation Realm looked at Night Sorrow as if they were looking at a fool. Chapter 2141. This was too much. Night Sorrow's speed was too fast. His soul force had already explored clearly, and his body had also rushed to the ground. Because of his confidence, Night Sorrow had chased after the cultivators of the Tribulation world with all his strength. Now, he had hit a big iron plate, and as long as he was not a fool, he would know that this iron plate was very hard. The leader of the Tribulation world was a Tribulation of 5 Emperors. There were a few Tribulation of 3 Emperors below him, and many Tribulation of 1 Emperors. The rest of the Tribulation of Emperors were everywhere. Looking at the army in front of him, Night Sorrow knew that this was an important force of the Tribulation world's impact on the Celestial Realm. The first centimeter. At this time, the soldiers of the Tribulation world looked at Night Sorrow with pity in their eyes, and some of them had a playful smile, just like a pack of wolves looking at a sheep. One person. The commander of the Tribulation world's army looked at Night Sorrow and spat out 3 words. One person at the moment. Night Sorrow responded. Then why aren't you running? Looking at Night Sorrow, the commander of the Tribulation world's army raised the corner of his mouth, and his face was full of ridicule. Why should I run? Whether or not I can do it, I still have to fight. If I can't, it's not too late to run. Tell me your name? Night Sorrow raised his chin at the Tribulation of 5 Emperors cultivator. You should be a smart person to be able to become a Tribulation of 3 Emperors cultivator at such a young age. I don't know if you are brave or stupid now. There is no harm in telling you my name. I am Lu Xing. The leader of the Tribulation world said. Night Sorrow took a deep breath, stepped on the ground, and sent out a destructive shock wave. With Night Sorrow's stomp, it was as if a dragon had drilled into the ground. The dirt and stones on the ground rose up and down, and they rushed towards Calamity World's army. Night Sorrow used the force of his stomp to rise into the air. He used Void Step and Space-Time Realm to bypass the meteor and rush into Calamity World's army. He then waved the Blood Kirin Evil Slaying Spear and started killing. Like a tiger in a flock of sheep, Night Sorrow released the Haotian Pagoda and merged it with his body. With the Taboo Reincarnation Precept Domain protecting him and the Blood Qilin Evil Slayer Spear, Night Sorrow began to kill the soldiers of the Realm of Calamity. He specifically targeted the cultivators of the One Sovereign Tribulation and the Imperial Tribulation because such attacks could achieve the most efficiency. The cultivators under the Tribulation of 3 Emperors were not easy to kill. It took a lot of time, so Night Sorrow chose to kill the high-level cultivators under the Tribulation of 3 Emperors. They were the backbone of the world of tribulations. How dare you! Lu Xing roared angrily and chased after Yi Shang when he saw a first Emperor Tribulation cultivator and 2 Emperor Tribulation cultivators being killed. Night Sorrow responded with a smile. Why wouldn't I dare? Ignoring Lu Xing's roar, Night Sorrow began to kill in the army of tribulations. Looking at a fool? The soldiers of the Realm of Calamity looked at Night Sorrow as if they were looking at a fool. Now that they knew they had misjudged him, how could he be a fool? He was a god of death. Lu Xing chased after him while Night Sorrow killed in front. While killing, he kept a distance from Lu Xing. Night Sorrow's killing efficiency was high because of his strong suppression. The taboo attribute suppressed the supreme attribute, and it suppressed high-level and ordinary attributes even more. There were no supreme attribute cultivators in the army of the Realm of Calamity, so everyone was suppressed by Night Sorrow's taboo reincarnation precept domain. If they were suppressed, they could not withstand Night Sorrow's sharp and overbearing attacks and could not stop Night Sorrow. The soldiers of the Realm of Calamity fell in droves. Night Sorrow also asked Shao Kong to collect the crystal cores of the cultivators of the Realm of Calamity that he killed. Those were all good things. In addition, when he attacked, he also attacked the head. The spear light cut open the opponent's head, so it was easy for Shao Kong to collect it. The Void Steps was a movement technique, and the space-time realm had the dual effect of movement and defense. Lu Xing chased after Night Sorrow with a few cultivators of the 3 Sovereign Tribulation, but they could not even touch his shadow. All their attacks missed. Kill. Night Sorrow kept killing in and out of the army of the Realm of Calamity. Shao Kong controlled the energy of the Haotian Pagoda to sweep through the area where Night Sorrow was fighting and collect the crystal cores of the opponents killed by Night Sorrow. A drop of blood essence of a Sovereign Tribulation cultivator was a stream, and a body of blood was a river. Night Sorrow really had a river of blood behind him. Night Sorrow felt that he had a warlike gene in his bones. He did not have any thoughts of fear. As the battle unfolded, the blood in his body boiled. Lu Xing knew that he had made a mistake. The question of not running was answered by Night Sorrow's strength. With Night Sorrow's strength, there was no need for him to run. In Night Sorrow's opinion, he had gone too far this time. He might have kicked an iron plate. In Lu Xing's eyes, wasn't he also an iron plate? Who was the wolf and who was the sheep? Who could say for sure? After half a cup of tea's time, Night Sorrow killed through the army of Lu Xing. He took a breath and used the space-time realm. With a void travel, he drew an arc and bypassed Lu Xing and the others. Night Sorrow entered the army again to kill. You are an expert. You have to have the demeanor of an expert. Do you dare to stop and fight one-on-one? Lu Xing shouted. Night Sorrow's movement technique was too profound. He could not stop him with his subordinates. Just now, you all thought I was a fool. Now you want me to have the demeanor of an expert? You think too much. This is also a one-on-one. I am willing to fight a group of you. Night Sorrow wanted to expand his victory. How could he stop? Besides, this was a war. Do you still have the dignity of an expert? Lu Xing was extremely angry now, but Night Sorrow did not stop. You have the cultivation of a 5 Emperor Tribulation, and you want to fight a 3 Emperor Tribulation cultivator. Dignity? I have nothing to say. Night Sorrow said, but his hands did not stop at all. He kept killing. Lu Xing wanted to say something and curse, but he did not know what to say. Night Sorrow was telling the truth. It was unreasonable for him to ask for a one-on-one battle. His cultivation was 2 levels higher than Night Sorrow's. The battle continued. More and more cultivators from the Tribulation realm fell. If you have the ability, then fight. What is this? Lu Xing was about to go crazy. Seeing the warriors under his command being scattered and killed by Night Sorrow, the anger in his heart burned fiercely. Aren't we fighting? Your speed is not enough. You can't fight. Don't say I don't want to fight. Yi Shang grabbed a cultivator from the Tribulation of the 2 sovereigns and attacked him. Yi Shang didn't know how to fight Lu Xing head-on. He hadn't reached the level yet. After killing this 2nd Emperor Tribulation opponent, Yishang planted a soul imprint on a first Emperor Tribulation cultivator. His body flashed a few times as he rushed out of the battle. Then, he used the Void Step and Space-Time Realm consecutively to shake off Lu Xing and the others who were chasing after him. He disappeared from their sight and soul probing. A gentleman would not stand under a collapsing wall. This was war. If possible, Knight Sorrow would not put himself in danger. At this time, he had used up half of his energy. He did not want to fight anymore. Anyway, he had left a soul mark, so he could come back to kill at any time. Lu Xing was angry that he did not catch Knight Sorrow. Knight Sorrow's speed and space-time defense were too fast for him. Chapter 2142. After Knight Sorrow left the meteor core, he found a secluded place and entered the Hao Tian Pagoda to recover. Then, he checked his harvest. After checking the crystal cores, Knight Sorrow praised Little Sky. Little Sky had helped him collect more than 200 crystal cores, weapons, and storage rings from the cultivators of the Tribulation Realm. However, only a small portion of the cultivators had storage rings. Little Sky told Knight Sorrow that he had collected all the crystal cores from the cultivators of the Tribulation Realm. However, only the cultivators of the Tribulation Realm had storage rings. Without clearing out the storage rings, Yishang hurried towards the area where the members of the God-slaying squad were. When he arrived, Yishang had the God-slaying squad stop moving forward and stay in the surrounding area. He then went to the areas where the other three teams were and brought them to the God-slaying squad's encampment. He announced that the squad would stop moving forward for now. Then, he designated the area where they would be active until there were new orders. After giving the order, Knight Sorrow went to the main tent of the God-slaying squad. He took out the storage rings and opened them to check. After checking, Knight Sorrow smiled. He had gained a lot. He saw high-level spirit stones that he had never seen before, Monarch Spirit Stone and Emperor Spirit Stone. Holding the spirit stones, Knight Sorrow could feel the dense energy contained within. While Knight Sorrow was studying the high-level spirit stones, Pu Luo, Lin Piaomiao, Yu Zhu, Lin Chuan, Long Jin, and Lin Yun all entered the tent. They wanted to ask why they had stopped moving forward. After entering the tent, Yu Zhu and the others were dumbfounded. Knight Sorrow had a storage ring on the table in front of him. Beside his feet was a dazzling array of materials. The most attractive thing was the high-level spirit stones that were half the size of a human head. Knight Sorrow, where did you rob? As Lin Piaomiao was Knight Sorrow's wife, she was the most suitable person to ask. I met a big fish. More accurately, I bumped into an iron plate. Since I didn't die, I naturally gained something, Knight Sorrow said with a smile. What big fish? Take us to eat. Also, what did you get? Show us, Yu Zhu said excitedly. That's fine too. Let's all be happy. You can take as many as you want. Knight Sorrow took out the crystal cores. Damn. Alliance Master, what's going on with you? Pu Luo, who had always been calm, was no longer calm. Knight Sorrow told him about his encounter with the World Legion of Calamity. Captain, that's where you're wrong. Are you planning to take on an army of thousands by yourself? Long Jin asked. It's not that I want to eat it myself. It's just that I don't dare to take you guys with me. The commander of that army is the Tribulation of 5 Emperors, and there are also a few commanders of the Tribulation of 3 Emperors. I rely on my speed to make a living. I can fight and leave whenever I want. How are you going to retreat if you guys go with me? Knight Sorrow explained the reason why he didn't want to take anyone with him. After Knight Sorrow's explanation, everyone understood. Knight Sorrow was very mobile. As long as he wasn't blocked, he would be invincible. If he took someone with him, it would be easy to fall into a trap. We're brothers and sisters. Whatever I get is yours. Take it yourselves. Knight Sorrow's sleeve shook as he pushed the crystal cores and high-level spirit stones in front of everyone. Let's go get it ourselves. Captain, you can keep it for yourself. Even if we can't kill the big guys, we can still kill the small ones. However, it's still necessary to show off with an Emperor Spirit Stone. Lin Yun took out an Emperor Spirit Stone. Everyone else took a King Spirit Stone, just like Lin Yun. You guys are so polite. If you guys are so polite, I won't have to worry about being generous in the future. Knight Sorrow smiled as he put the King Spirit Stones away. Alliance Master, when can we fight? Pu Luo's fighting spirit was high. Wait for me to use guerrilla warfare to exhaust their strength. Then, I'll take you guys to battle. Knight Sorrow said. This was also his plan. Right now, he didn't dare to take people to battle. The thousands of people from the other side could drown his team. VQ Yong. L Gio Gio Gio. Look at our asterisk little, unspecified currency says square root. Pu Luo nodded. After listening to Knight Sorrow's explanation, he understood that he couldn't fight. He was different from Knight Sorrow. Knight Sorrow had the ability to fight and retreat when he wanted to when facing the tribulation of 5 emperors. However, he couldn't. He could fight the tribulation of 5 emperors head-on, but he didn't dare to say that he could win. Once he was surrounded, the consequences would be dire. He wouldn't have the chance to retreat. After arranging the team, Knight Sorrow set off. He had fully recovered from the time acceleration in the clear sky pagoda. He could fight again. Sensing the soul imprint, Knight Sorrow found that the meteor core had only moved slightly. They were stationed not far from the original battlefield. After thinking about it, Knight Sorrow gave up the idea of a sneak attack. If he sneaked an attack on Lu Xing, he wouldn't be able to kill him if other tribulation of 3 emperors cultivators interfered. If he targeted the core commander of the tribulation of 3 emperors, he could succeed, but he would lose the opportunity to sneak an attack on Lu Xing in the future. Lu Xing was a tribulation of 5 emperors cultivator. He would only suffer some losses once. Knight Sorrow wanted to leave the opportunity to sneak an attack on Lu Xing. Knight Sorrow rushed over and started the second round of killing. After entering the battle, Knight Sorrow smiled in his heart. He had discovered the array. Many array areas had appeared in the meteor core's encampment. Although he didn't know much about the array formations of the cultivators in the tribulation world, as an array expert, Knight Sorrow could see the array areas at a glance. Knight Sorrow pretended not to know. Every time he moved, he was not far away from the array area. Lu Xing and several core commanders with tribulation of 3 emperors cultivators gritted their teeth in hatred. As long as Knight Sorrow entered the array area that had reinforced the space barrier, his speed would be limited. Then they could surround him and kill him. Contrary to their wishes, Knight Sorrow did not enter the array area while Lu Xing and the others were anxiously looking forward to it. He passed by them twice. The battle was very fierce. Knight Sorrow took their lives with his spear. After killing for an hour, Knight Sorrow retreated again. Of course, the one with the soul imprint was still alive. When Knight Sorrow came, he entered the array area. After Knight Sorrow left, Lu Xing's face turned black with anger. This bastard is lucky. He almost entered the array area several times. A core commander cursed. A legion commander cursed. Their subordinates were slaughtered wantonly by Knight Sorrow. The legion commanders of the other tribulation realms were all furious. Continue to increase the array area. This bastard has tasted the sweetness and will come again, Lu Xing ordered. Chapter 2143. After counting the losses of the Legion, Lu Xing waved his hand and shattered the tent. Knight Sorrow had come twice, and in the 2 battles, his army had lost more than 500 people, all of whom were the core of the army. The ones killed by Knight Sorrow were the commanders and captains under him and a few other army commanders. They were the core of the army. Lu Xing wasn't the only one who was annoyed. Several Legion commanders under him were also very angry. If this continued, the backbone of the Legion would be wiped out. Give the order to increase the formation area. Everyone should not be too far away from the formation area. When he comes, retreat into the formation area. As long as he enters the formation area, he will be dead. Lu Xing's face was gloomy. He now hoped that the formation would be effective. Otherwise, there was nothing he could do. His speed and flexibility were not as good as Knight Sorrow's. The strength of his long-range attacks and energy attacks could not hurt Knight Sorrow, who had the protection of his secret technique. After recovering, Knight Sorrow was not in a hurry to attack. Instead, he outlined the formation area of the Calamity World's Legion based on his memory. He would have to face that formation sooner or later because the cultivators of the Calamity World would run inside after being attacked. After sketching it, Knight Sorrow found that the greatest effect of the formation was to strengthen the spatial barrier. The second effect was to seal and slow down. I will understand it more carefully in the next battle and see how strong the seal of this formation is. Knight Sorrow stood up and tightened the blood-Kirin evil-slaying spear on his back. Then, he rushed toward the Meteor Legion's encampment. When Knight Sorrow appeared, some of the cultivators of the Calamity World immediately retreated into the formation area. However, in order to maintain the concealment of the formation area, they retreated relatively slowly. Knight Sorrow still had targets to kill. As Lu Xing chased after him, Knight Sorrow sent a spatial rift toward the formation area. As the spatial rift energy flew and cut, a black line appeared. A high-level Emperor Tribulation cultivator was cut open. After killing the target, the spatial rift energy attacked the formation area. The spatial rift speed was reduced, but it still cut into the formation area. After advancing for a while, it dissipated. The sealing effect was not bad, but Knight Sorrow felt that it was not enough to suppress him. He could still use Void Steps and Space-Time Realm to open a path. Knight Sorrow used the Spatial Rend to test the strength of the array formation. This caused Lu Xing and the others' expressions to change. The array formation didn't restrict Knight Sorrow's attack. They didn't think that Knight Sorrow would have such a consummate skill. Knight Sorrow smiled as he killed all the cultivators in the world of tribulations until they ran into the formation area. Lu Xing and the others had the urge to curse in their hearts. Array formation trap? Trap my ass. It was obvious that the array formation had been exposed. This time, they had only killed 100 or so cultivators from the Tribulation realm. However, Knight Sorrow decided to retreat. He wasn't in his peak state and didn't want to risk going into the formation. It would be more reliable if he left to recover and take risks in his peak state. Knight Sorrow left amidst Meteor's curses. Someone, go and inform Protector Lu Yun to come over. Lu Xing knew that the situation was not good. He had to find help. Lu Yun was his junior brother, and his cultivation was a little lower. Knight Sorrow did not consume much energy this time, so he quickly recovered. This time, Knight Sorrow wanted to test the strength of the opponent's array formation. Then, he would come up with a strategy. In the previous battles, Knight Sorrow did not use his full strength, nor did he use the power of virtue. In the previous battles, Knight Sorrow used the power of virtue mostly to protect himself, not to kill. If possible, Knight Sorrow did not want to use the power of virtue to enhance his combat strength to kill. Of course, Knight Sorrow's power of virtue came from the Celestial Realm. There was nothing wrong with solving the tribulation for the Celestial Realm. Of course, this idea was Knight Sorrow's personal subjective consciousness. After arriving this time, Knight Sorrow used the Space Rend to slash at the array formation. Then he used the Void Step and the Space-Time Realm to enter the array formation and kill. Knight Sorrow's Space Rend had two forms. One was the original version of the Space Rend, and the other was the Space Rend with the Reincarnation attribute. The forbidden reincarnation energy was released in the form of the Space Rend. Its power was much stronger than the original version of the Space Rend. However, Knight Sorrow did not use it much. The main reason was that after researching it, he had not encountered many real battles. The Space Rend opened up a path. Knight Sorrow used the Soul Destruction Slash, the Reincarnation True Dragon Art, and the Primordial Extreme Kill alternately. This time, he was truly going all out to kill. Once you enter the array formation, you will die. Surround him in a straight line. Lu Xing gritted his teeth and shouted at the commanders of the three Emperor's Tribulation army behind him. Knight Sorrow ignored him and continued to move forward to kill. Because he still needed to fight while moving forward, it was more time-consuming. Knight Sorrow's left, center, and right directions were blocked by the three Emperor's Tribulation cultivators under Lu Xing's command. Break! Knight Sorrow roared. 8 Space Rends appeared in front of him, behind him, to his left, and to his right. They were Space Rends supported by the Reincarnation attribute. After using the Space Rend with all his strength, Knight Sorrow used the afterimage body. A few afterimages flew along the path of the Space Rend. When Lu Xing and the others were dazzled and could not see clearly, Knight Sorrow's true body used the Void Steps and the Space-Time Realm together. Following the Space Rend, he rushed out of the encirclement and continued to kill. PCC Zeng Edition Z Chapter 8 Supra. P2-inch Bastard. After the encirclement failed, Lu Xing opened his mouth and cursed. This is war. If you speak ill of me, it only means that you don't have the strength and ability. Yi Sorrow replied after killing 2 opponents. Lu Xing did not say anything. The truth was right in front of him. He could not refute Night Sorrow's words. After killing 2 people in the array formation, Night Sorrow left again. Night Sorrow did not want to play anymore because it consumed too much energy. This was because he had to bear some risks. After Night Sorrow left, Lu Xing felt powerless. He had no way to deal with Night Sorrow's speed and movement techniques. After thinking for a while, Lu Xing ordered his men to retreat. Then, he asked the army's upper echelons to watch from the outside. If Night Sorrow came, it would be fine as long as they could hold him back. This situation made Night Sorrow, who was attacking again, more active. Under the situation where their soul power enveloped each other, Night Sorrow and Lu Xing looked at each other for a while and then retreated. Lu Xing was relieved that Night Sorrow did not come. He realized that he was actually afraid. He was afraid that Night Sorrow would come again. Night Sorrow's retreat made Lu Xing feel that this defense was effective. When his junior brother Lu Yun came, this passive and powerless situation could be resolved. After leaving the area where Lu Xing's soul power could reach, Night Sorrow brandished his bloodbath evil vanquishing spear. After cutting through the spatial barrier, he entered the spatial turbulence. Night Sorrow retreated. It was not that he did not want to fight, but he felt that Lu Xing and the other Legion commanders had separated. It was time for him to use his ultimate move. After dealing with Lu Xing, he could fight openly. He did not need to hide from anyone. In the spatial turbulence, Night Sorrow used his Dao domain to suppress the spatial fluctuations to the minimum. Then, he moved towards Lu Xing's army. He wanted to kill them. Chapter 2144. Night Sorrow circulated his leakless true body to the extreme. He didn't even breathe as he slowly approached the area where Lu Xing was. He was catching a big fish this time. If he could kill Lu Xing, he would be able to take down the entire Legion. As he approached, Night Sorrow felt a little nervous. This was the first time Night Sorrow had ambushed a great expert like the Tribulation of 5 Emperors. He had never thought of it before. Lu Xing thought about where the uneasiness came from. He stood up and looked at the Legion's campsite. When he didn't find anything amiss, he sat down again. He was now looking forward to Night Sorrow's arrival. That way, the 2 Tribulation of 5 Emperors cultivators could block Night Sorrow and kill him. In addition, Lu Xing was certain that Night Sorrow was definitely an important figure in the celestial realm. It was already very impressive that he had reached the Tribulation of 3 Emperors at such a young age. His combat strength was also ridiculously strong. He had never seen these 2 attributes before, but he understood that they were much more high-end than the attributes he knew. While Lu Xing was thinking, Night Sorrow was getting closer and closer to Lu Xing's location. Night Sorrow held the blood-Qilin evil vanquishing spear as he thought about his moves and routines. He wanted to end this battle as quickly as possible. If he gave Lu Xing a chance to resist and let him last until the other Legion commanders arrived, he wouldn't have a chance and would be in danger. After deciding on the order in which he would use his absolute art, Night Sorrow was very close to the meteor. Night Sorrow poured the Samsara energy into the blood-Qilin evil vanquishing spear and used the Samsara true dragon art. At the same time, he waved his left hand and cut open space. There was no gap between the 2 moves. After arriving in the real world, Night Sorrow's Samsara true dragon art instantly attacked Lu Xing. The attack appeared very suddenly. Under Lu Xing's surprised gaze, Night Sorrow's Merit Samsara Dao domain pressed down. Night Sorrow wasn't willing to use the power of merit to augment his combat strength to bully the weak and kill, but he didn't have such concerns when fighting someone of a higher level. Lu Xing hurriedly cast his Dao domain defense, but it was instantly suppressed by Night Sorrow's Merit Dao domain. At that moment, Night Sorrow's true dragon destruction art arrived in front of him. "How dare you, scoundrel!" Lu Xing was infuriated. He had actually become the target of a Tribulation of 3 Sovereigns cultivator. This was a humiliation to him, but what he needed to resolve now was a crisis. Night Sorrow's Dao domain was extremely powerful. It completely enveloped him, rendering his Dao domain ineffective. In addition, Night Sorrow's blood-Qilin evil slaying spear contained an illusory energy that made him feel extremely threatened. At the same time that Meteor brandished his saber, Night Sorrow also released his soul-extinguishing slash. At this time, he was going all out. As the 2 weapons approached, Night Sorrow's body moved a small step. The blood Qilin execution evil spear avoided Meteor's saber and continued to stab forward. Night Sorrow wouldn't give Meteor a chance to clash head-on. That would result in a stalemate, which would cause him to lose time and opportunities. The corner of Meteor's eyes twitched. The current situation wasn't good for him. Night Sorrow's weapon was a little off, but the attack would definitely severely injure him. If his saber slashed Night Sorrow, it would at most injure Night Sorrow. After analyzing the situation, Meteor sheathed his saber and slashed at Night Sorrow's blood Qilin execution evil spear. However, at that moment, Night Sorrow's soul-extinguishing slash arrived. The purple crescent blade, which was half a person's height, slashed at Meteor's body. Black. Meteor's body trembled. His soul power protected his body as he blocked Night Sorrow's soul-extinguishing slash attack. As a 5 Emperor Tribulation cultivator, Meteor naturally knew what kind of attack Night Sorrow's soul-extinguishing slash was. Night Sorrow's soul-extinguishing slash was blocked by Meteor's soul power. However, the negative illusions rushed into Meteor's spirit sea, causing his saber to slow down by half a beat. The saber that blocked Night Sorrow's blood Qilin execution evil spear didn't have much strength. Night Sorrow's blood Qilin execution evil spear directly shook it away. Then, the blood Qilin execution evil spear pierced Meteor's chest. Night Sorrow's forbidden reincarnation energy rushed into Meteor's body through the blood Qilin execution evil spear. It started to shake and destroy. Meteor, who had been attacked, woke up. He reached out his left hand and grabbed Night Sorrow's blood Qilin execution evil spear. He was about to pull it out of his body. Night Sorrow wouldn't give him the chance. He reached out his empty left hand and grabbed Meteor's left wrist. Then he pulled hard, pulling the two bodies closer. The blood Qilin execution evil spear directly pierced Meteor's body. Then, it kept shaking and destroying Meteor's body. Help! Meteor cried for help. At this time, his Legion commanders also noticed the situation and flew over. Help! Go die! Night Sorrow roared. The virtuous immortal body's energy moved to his left hand and he twisted it. With a cracking sound, Meteor's wrist was broken by Night Sorrow. He didn't specialize in cultivating his body. The difference between his strength and Night Sorrow's was too big. After breaking Meteor's left wrist, Night Sorrow's left hand reached out again and grabbed the saber that Meteor was slashing at his neck. Then he used void steps. The blood Qilin execution evil spear pierced through Meteor and began to fly. He had to run now. He had to avoid Meteor's reinforcements while continuing to destroy Meteor's body. Night Sorrow's speed was about the same as the Legion commanders under Meteor's command. He still had a chance to continue destroying Meteor's body. While escaping, Yi Shang had chosen a route that led to the god-slaying team's encampment. Now that Lu Xing had been dealt with, Yi Shang was no longer afraid of the tribulation of 3 Emperor's cultivators under Lu Xing's command. Yi Shang and his men could deal with them. At this time, Meteor was waving his left arm at Night Sorrow's body and kicking his legs. Night Sorrow didn't care about this. Meteor's left arm didn't have a weapon. When it hit his body protected by the virtuous immortal body, it didn't cause any damage. It was completely negligible. As for Meteor's threatening right hand that was holding the saber, it was completely controlled by him. Let go of our Legion commander and we'll spare your life. Otherwise, we'll cut you into pieces. Meteor's Legion commanders roared. They never thought that Meteor would be defeated by Night Sorrow. They also saw that Meteor was constantly being injured and his aura was getting weaker and weaker. Let go of him? I spent so much effort to get rid of him. How can I let go? Continue chasing. I'll deal with you in a while. Night Sorrow shouted without turning his head. He pulled the bloodbath Qilin evil slaying spear out of Meteor's body and then stabbed it in again. He constantly used vibration force and wave force to destroy Meteor's body. I'll definitely kill you. Meteor and Night Sorrow were very close. His eyes were almost spitting fire. At the same time, the energy in his body began to gather. You forgot that your soul can leave your body. I won't give you the chance, virtuous fire. Night Sorrow's virtuous reincarnation Dao domain began to burn with the virtuous fire. If Meteor's soul left his body, his virtuous fire could envelop it and destroy it. Meteor's expression changed. Night Sorrow had cut off his escape route. Under such circumstances, if his soul left his body, it would be destroyed by Night Sorrow's Dao domain. It would be very difficult for him to escape. You're shameless and despicable. Meteor cursed. Chapter 21:45. After getting rid of Lu Xing's Legion commander, Night Sorrow continued to deal with Lu Xing. The virtuous fire also enveloped Lu Xing, preventing his soul from leaving his body. Lu Xing kept cursing, but he couldn't fight back. As Night Sorrow tortured him, his body was damaged beyond recognition. His tendons and bones were all broken. In the chase, Night Sorrow's god-slaying team was getting closer and closer to their base. You guys keep chasing. You won't be able to escape later. Night Sorrow's blood-chilling evil punishment spear stabbed Lu Xing's body a few more times. At the same time, his soul power vibrated, and the soul crystal that Lin Piaomiao had given him a long time ago was taken out of his storage ring and shattered. Night Sorrow wanted to keep Lu Xing's Legion commanders here, but he didn't want to bring the battle to the god-slaying team's base. Normal Monarch Realm cultivators were too weak in front of the tribulation of the three emperors. Once they were attacked, they would be killed. Night Sorrow didn't want his men to get hurt. When the soul crystal shattered, Lin Piaomiao, who had just returned to her tent to drink tea, stood up. My soul crystal shattered. It's not too far away. Night Sorrow broke it. There's a problem. Let's go help. Lin Piaomiao came out of the tent. Pu Luo, Yu Zhu, Lin Chuan, Long Jin, and Tian Yu followed. Lin Yun wanted to follow, but Long Jin asked her to stay and watch the base. When Lin Piaomiao and Pu Luo met Night Sorrow and Lu Xing's subordinates were cursing at each other. Night Sorrow cursed as he stabbed Lu Xing with his blood-chilling evil punishment spear. Lu Xing didn't have much life left. No matter how high his cultivation was, he couldn't withstand Night Sorrow's blood-chilling evil punishment spear. You came at the right time. Hold them down for a while. Don't let any of them escape. I'll kill this one first. Night Sorrow's body flashed behind Pu Luo and the others. Then, he lifted his right knee and sent Lu Xing's body flying. Then, he struck out with his spear and shattered Lu Xing's head. Afterward, the fire of virtue wrapped around Lu Xing's soul and burned it. The early, middle, and late stages of the Emperor Tribulation had different soul levels. Lu Xing's soul level was high, so he couldn't kill him easily. That was why Night Sorrow had been running all the time. He didn't have time to deal with Lu Xing. Now that someone was covering for him, Night Sorrow had time. The Merit Dao domain suppressed Lu Xing's soul form, preventing it from escaping. Night Sorrow's fire of merit burned Lu Xing's soul form. At the same time, the bloodbath evil-slaying spear constantly stabbed into Lu Xing's soul form. The energy continued to vibrate, causing Lu Xing's soul form to become unstable. Night Sorrow struck 5 times with all his strength. Coupled with the fire of soul, Night Sorrow finally killed Lu Xing. Lu Xing was completely killed. After his soul power swept through the spoils of war, Night Sorrow rushed toward Lin Chuan, Long Jin, and Tian Yu. The 3 of them were fighting against a cultivator of the 3 Emperor Tribulation. They were at an absolute disadvantage. They were pushed back time and time again. The difference in cultivation was too big. If the 3 of them didn't have a tacit understanding, they would have died easily. Lin Chuan and Tian Yu went to help Yu Zhu. Night Sorrow asked Long Jin to bring the rest of the team over. Night Sorrow started to kill the cultivator of the 3 Emperor Tribulation in front of him. Night Sorrow was terrifying when he went all out. In half a cup of tea's time, Night Sorrow killed his opponent. Then, Night Sorrow took care of Yu Zhu. Yu Zhu was a cultivator of the tribulation of the 2 Emperor Tribulation, so she was under a lot of pressure. Even with Lin Chuan and Tian Yu's help, it wasn't enough. After Night Sorrow took care of her, Yu Zhu went to help Lin Piaomiao, who had the upper hand but couldn't suppress her. On the other battlefield, Pu Luo's fists were extremely domineering. He had already suppressed his opponent. Victory was only a matter of time. 8 Emperor Tribulation. First Strike Z. Night Sorrow killed Lu Xing. Although it was a sneak attack, his strength was obvious. After fighting for a while, the Soul Destruction Slash was effective and killed his opponent. Night Sorrow didn't help the remaining 2 teams because they could win either way. Night Sorrow nodded to Lin Chuan and Tian Yu. He took out the Clear Sky Pagoda and entered it. He wanted to recover in the shortest time possible. After the rest of the team came over to prepare, he would start killing the meteor core. What are the cultivators we killed? Tianyu looked at Lin Chuan. He couldn't tell the cultivation of his opponent. Lin Chuan's cultivation was higher than his. I can't tell either. They must be cultivators of the tribulation of the Emperor Tribulation, Lin Chuan said. The battle was still going on. However, the two commanders of the meteor core were getting weaker and weaker. Pu Luo's cultivation was one level higher than his opponent's. When Lin Piaomiao was an emperor, she was known to be invincible in head-on battles. She was good at fighting head-on battles. She already had the upper hand. After Yu Zhu joined in, the battle became a foregone conclusion. Long Jin arrived with the Heaven Wasteland Army, the First Army, and the God-slaying team. When Night Sorrow appeared, the battle was already over. Pu Luo, Lin Piaomiao, and Yu Zhu were all meditating to recover. They didn't use much energy, unlike Night Sorrow who fought a great battle. Chief Commander. Alliance Leader. Many people bowed when they saw Night Sorrow. You all came just in time. The battle is coming. We need a plan to destroy the entire core of tribulation, Night Sorrow said. Alliance Leader, according to what you said, they have thousands of people. It'll be difficult for us to do that. Pu Luo was stunned after hearing Night Sorrow's words. Their commander and several core commanders all died here. Their specialty is that they don't have doppelgangers, so the news didn't leak out. They won't move for a short period of time. Now, we need to set up the formation. What we need to do next is to hunt the wolves and herd the sheep into the formation to kill them. Night Sorrow explained the plan. This was the plan he came up with while meditating. Pu Luo and the others were shocked when they heard Night Sorrow say that the commander of the core of tribulation had died. This was because he was a cultivator of the tribulation of 5 emperors. After speaking, Night Sorrow suddenly stopped moving. His body was full of golden light. It was the golden light of merit that couldn't be controlled. At this time, the body of Night Sorrow at the top of the Heaven Wasteland Tower shone with golden light. Golden light also appeared in the sky and gathered on Night Sorrow's body. The golden light illuminated the Heaven Wasteland Tower and radiated in all directions. Night Sorrow stood at the top of the Heaven Wasteland Tower and bathed in the golden light of merit. He knew that after killing Lu Xing and the 2 core commanders of the Tribulation World, the Heavenly Tao had decided that he had created more merit for the Celestial Realm. If Lu Xing and the 2 core commanders had led their armies into the Celestial Realm, the people would have been in a terrible situation. Now, this problem was solved. With the advancement of his merit cultivation, Night Sorrow's cultivation had broken through the limit of a level 5 Imperial Lord and reached level 6. However, he had only just reached level 6. This was the foundation he had accumulated. He had benefited the Celestial Realm and preached. Together with the merit this time, Night Sorrow's merit had advanced. In the past, he had killed Mo Tianji and the Holy Lord of the Demon Wing clan. This was a supreme merit for the natives of the Celestial Realm. Chapter 2146. After Night Sorrow absorbed the golden light of virtue into his body, he sat down and continued to cultivate. Looking at the situation, Lu Qi waved his hand and dismissed everyone. In the world of calamity, Night Sorrow opened his eyes. Pu Luo, we don't have enough manpower, and the Heaven Wasteland Army can't be mobilized in large numbers. At this time, we can only use our own strength to get the Humanitarian League team over. Call the Great Demon King, Ruiz, and Fentian over. The Calamity Army is a big matter. Killing them is a great merit to the Celestial Realm. Okay, I'll go back and mobilize the troops now. Pu Luo nodded and left the stronghold through the teleportation formation set up by the formation masters of the Heaven Wasteland Army. Night Sorrow asked the formation masters to gather and commanded everyone to set up the formation according to his own ideas. It was the unparalleled formation. He wanted to completely eliminate the Meteor Army here. 5N hashtag. The unparalleled formation was very deep. It was a compound formation. Ordinary formation masters couldn't understand and control it. Night Sorrow split it up and let the formation masters set it up. He then combined and connected it. While setting up the formation, Night Sorrow also felt the situation after the promotion of his power of virtue. The improvement of his original body was the same as the improvement of his doppelganger. Lin Piaomiao and Yu Zhu followed beside Night Sorrow and asked Night Sorrow about the Calamity Army. After hearing the process of Night Sorrow killing Meteor, they were really worried for Night Sorrow because it was really risky for Night Sorrow to launch a sneak attack in their territory under the eyes of their subordinates. Night Sorrow, this is a little too risky. Lin Piao Miao was a little scared. This was Night Sorrow's success. If there was a mistake, then the result would be completely different. I'm a little worried and anxious. We don't know how many legions there are in the Calamity World. We have to speed up the pace. Meteor is only a commander in the Calamity World. No one can be sure how many commanders there are. Let's kill one first. Night Sorrow said while setting up the formation. Night Sorrow's speed in setting up the array formation was very fast. He was almost using all his strength to set up the array formation. He was in a hurry and did not want to waste too much time. An hour later, Pu Luo arrived with his men. Alliance Master, the battle at the entrance is quite fierce. The Ice Phoenix clan and the Azure Dragons are working together to hold them back. Other forces are also rushing over, Pu Luo said. Can you handle it? Night Sorrow asked. I can withstand it. Pu Luo nodded. Night Sorrow said to Pu Luo, that's good. It will take some time to set up the formation. Tell your brothers that there will be no time to rest and recover after the battle starts. Everyone should use their energy wisely. Don't be stingy with resources. We have to follow the army of the world of calamity and fight to the end. Pu Luo nodded and went to make the arrangements. The preparation and deployment before the battle were very important. Night Sorrow did not have the time now. As the law-enforcing elder of the 100 Races Elder Assembly, he had to help Night Sorrow deal with these matters. The Heaven Wasteland Army would also accept his orders. After half a day, Night Sorrow had almost finished setting up the array formation. After arranging for an Emperor-level array formation master in the Heaven Wasteland Army to deal with some flaws in the terrain around the array formation, Night Sorrow gathered everyone together. Now, let's talk about the team allocation. Pu Luo and Lin Miao, your teams will remain unchanged. Senior brother Fun Tian will join Lin Miao's team. Rue Si, you will be in Pu Luo's team. Great Demon King, you and Yu Zhu will lead the Humanitarian League's team and the First Army. I will lead the God-slaying team and surround them. We will chase them to this area and exhaust their strength on the way. Finally, we will finish them off here. Night Sorrow explained the arrangement. After Night Sorrow made the arrangements, Pu Luo and Lin Miao looked at Night Sorrow. Isn't your team a little too weak? It is, but it's not a big problem. I killed my way in and out of their campsite a few times. They should be afraid of me and won't attack my team, Night Sorrow said. How about this? My original body is not in a cultivation state. I will be in your team on the way, the Great Demon King said. That's fine. Let's set off then. We will go around their campsite and attack, Night Sorrow said after thinking for a while. After the allocation of teams and personnel was done, Night Sorrow led his team and set off. Because of the soul imprint, Night Sorrow could roughly sense the location. He realized that the army under Lu Xing's command had not moved. Night Sorrow led his team to avoid Lu Xing's scouting area and arrived at the opposite side of Lu Xing's campsite. The Lu Xing's original body was between his team and the formation area. At this time, the Great Demon King's original body also arrived. He had the cultivation of tribulation of the 3 emperors, so his speed was much faster than the team's movement. The battle is about to start. I have a few old words to say. We have to go back alive. This is not only a responsibility for ourselves, but also for our families. I've said this before. After so many years, we have to look back and see that our brothers are still around. Everyone has cultivated the combined attack formation. When you can exchange your injuries for the lives of your brothers, you have to take a hit for them. If you have the determination to take a hit for others, others will also have the same awareness. If there are brothers who can take a hit for us, our hearts will be filled with warmth and a sense of accomplishment. After Night Sorrow finished speaking, he knocked on his left chest and bowed slightly. In fact, this was also a kind of sincere request. In response to Night Sorrow, everyone knocked on their left chest and bowed in response. Thank you. Night Sorrow stood up straight and said these 2 words in a low voice. He was grateful that these soldiers in front of him could understand what he meant. Captain, we should be the ones thanking you for being able to fight by your side, Ho Jian said with some emotion. Let's not talk about this anymore. Brothers, after we go back, I, Night Sorrow, will hold a banquet for everyone. You just have to bring the people who are drinking back. Now, the other 3 teams have entered the encirclement area. Remember, if the situation is critical, help each other. The battle will start in 15 minutes. Night Sorrow raised the blood-Qilin evil slaying spear in his right hand and waved it. At this time, in Lu Xing's campsite, a middle-aged man was sitting in the main tent. He was Lu Xing's junior brother, Lu Yun. He was also a cultivator of tribulation of the 5 emperors. After listening to a commander of Lu Xing's report, Lu Yun raised his eyebrows. He felt that something was wrong. Lu Xing's tribulation of the 5 emperors had been attacked by a tribulation of the 3 emperors. The other commanders should not have a problem providing support. However, according to the time, they should have returned by now. Sir, what should we do now? The commander asked. There was no commander of Lu Xing's Meteor Legion now. This commander was the first commander and was currently in charge of the Meteor Legion's affairs. The situation is not very good. Wait a little longer. If there is still no news, you take your men and join the Fire Dance Corps. I will go and find them. Lu Yun thought for a moment and felt that this place was not very safe. He was worried that the people of the Celestial Realm would come and kill them. At present, the Meteor Legion's morale was too low. They had to rest to recover their combat strength. The commander who reported the situation bowed and accepted the order. Chapter 2147. Lu Yun was at the tribulation of the 5 emperors. His soul power was very strong. When Night Sorrow's 4 teams surrounded him, he sensed it. He knew that his worries had come true. Something had happened to Lu Xing. Now, people from the Celestial Realm were charging over. After giving the order to prepare for battle, Lu Yun soared into the sky and looked in the direction of the 4 teams. When he saw Night Sorrow, he knew that Night Sorrow was the commander. First of all, he knew what Night Sorrow looked like from the report of the Meteor Legion's commander. In addition, Night Sorrow led the fewest people and was in the middle. He was in the leading position. When Night Sorrow probed Lu Yun, he knew that something had happened. He didn't expect a second tribulation of the 5 emperors cultivator to appear. Great Demon King. Another tribulation of the 5 emperors cultivator has appeared. I'll take care of this iron plate. Lead the brothers. Night Sorrow shouted to the Great Demon King beside him. Alliance Master, why don't I do it? At that moment, the Great Demon King also knew the situation. Lu Yun's cultivation was obvious. You're the main body. You can't take the risk. Fortunately, you're here. You can help me lead the team. I had to sneak attack the last guy because his subordinates interfered. This time, I don't have any worries. Let's fight head-on. Night Sorrow wasn't afraid. His heart was filled with fighting spirit. All right. The Great Demon King nodded heavily. Night Sorrow waved his right arm and the blood-Qilin evil vanquishing spear rose into the sky. He looked at Lu Yun. Neither of them cared about the battle below. Where's Lu Xing? Lu Yun waved his right arm and a long sword appeared in his hand. I killed him, Night Sorrow said. You killed him? Shameless boasting. Lu Yun snorted coldly. Before the Emperor's tribulation, there were many geniuses who could kill opponents above their level. However, after the Emperor's tribulation, it was very difficult to fight opponents above their level, let alone kill opponents above their level. Night Sorrow said that he had killed Lu Xing, but Lu Yun didn't believe him because there was a 2-level difference between them. It was already good enough that he hadn't been killed. It was impossible for him to kill Lu Xing. Night Sorrow didn't say anything. He took out Meteor's crystal core with his left hand and showed it to Lu Yun before putting it away. It hadn't been long since the meteor fell. The crystal core still had his aura, so Lu Yun could naturally tell. Night Sorrow was using facts to speak. It was also a psychological battle. He wanted Lu Yun to know that he could kill a cultivator from the 5 sovereign tribulation. Damn it! Flowing Cloud cursed. Just as Night Sorrow had expected, after seeing Meteor's crystal core, Flowing Cloud couldn't remain calm. The furious Flowing Cloud attacked. He released his Dao domain and brandished his sword. He released his sword beam and slashed at Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow used Void Steps and dodged Flowing Cloud's sword beam attack. He also noticed Flowing Cloud's situation. Flowing Cloud's Dao domain was a fused Dao domain. It was a fusion of multiple attributes with the death attribute as the main element. Seeing Night Sorrow dodge, Flowing Cloud quickly slashed out with his sword. Sword beams slashed at Night Sorrow, one after another. The sword momentum was endless. Night Sorrow didn't counterattack. He wouldn't fight Flowing Cloud head-on. His cultivation level was low. No matter how domineering his energy was, he was at an absolute disadvantage in terms of numbers. This was an unavoidable fact. Seeing Night Sorrow dodge, Flowing Cloud's sword beams became denser, forming a sword beam net that attacked Night Sorrow. Unable to dodge, Night Sorrow used Space-Time Realm. His body flickered as the sword beams flew over. He didn't suffer any damage. Flowing Cloud's sword beams were sharp, but they didn't cause much of an impact on the void turbulence and alternate spaces. Therefore, they were ineffective against Night Sorrow. Seeing that the sword beams were ineffective, Flowing Cloud knew that Night Sorrow's defensive technique was powerful. However, his sword technique had changed. It carried a unique Dao charm that caused space to tremble when it was released. Night Sorrow retreated. At the same time, he understood that the sword beams Flowing Cloud released had already caused damage to the void turbulence and alternate spaces. It wasn't an ordinary sword beam, but an ultimate sword technique. Taboo Primordial Dao Domain. Night Sorrow released his Taboo Primordial Dao Domain in all directions. He wanted to melt Flowing Cloud's sword beams and weaken their might. This way, Flowing Cloud's sword beams would be weakened and wouldn't break through his space-time realm. Night Sorrow wanted to test Flowing Cloud's strength and find an opportunity to counterattack. He wouldn't easily counterattack. When he counterattacked, he had to pose a threat to Flowing Cloud. It had to be fatal. Night Sorrow's movement technique was fast. With the Taboo Primordial Dao Domain's melting ability, Flowing Cloud's attack didn't cause much damage to Night Sorrow. When Night Sorrow dodged the attack, he retreated to the sky above the battle. He had been watching the battle the entire time. The 4 teams under Night Sorrow slaughtered the Meteor Legion soldiers and chased them away. The Meteor Legion had many people, but their combat strength was inferior to Night Sorrow's men. It had to be known that the strength of the leaders under Night Sorrow's command was very high. Piluo was at the 4 Emperor Tribulation, Lin Piaomiao and the Great Demon King were at the 3 Emperor Tribulation. Yu Zhu was at the 2 Emperor Tribulation, and Fen Tian was at the 1 Emperor Tribulation. As for the Meteor Legion, most of their cultivators had been killed by Night Sorrow. The remaining cultivators were at most at the 1 Emperor Tribulation, so they couldn't fight against these people. In terms of the combat strength of ordinary soldiers, Night Sorrow's men had the help of a joint attack formation. Trapping the Meteor Legion's warriors was a massacre. The main thing was that the Meteor Legion's morale was already gone. Now they could only retreat and run. Lu Xing was very annoyed. Night Sorrow was like a loach. His attacks didn't have much effect. In addition, Night Sorrow's speed was also fast. He couldn't catch him. At this moment, he also understood why Lu Xing called him over. He wanted to form a blockade and deal with Night Sorrow. Energy attacks didn't have much damage. Smoke appeared on Flowing Cloud's sword beams. He had added a soul attack into his sword technique. 5 Yong Y Geo XV, Phi W look at Z little z. Say Night Sorrow countered every move he made. He powered the 9 regions origin beads and protected his divine C, blocking Lu Yun's soul attack. Trash. Seeing that Night Sorrow was only dodging and not retaliating, Flowing Cloud, who had no solution, cursed. Then, he looked down at the battlefield and stared at Lin Piaomiao. Lin Piaomiao's killing power in the battle with the Drifting Cloud Legion was extremely high. Her direct combat strength was strong, and the cultivation level of the tribulation of the 3 sovereigns suppressed the soldiers of the Drifting Cloud Legion. Therefore, anyone who was targeted by her would definitely die. Since he couldn't deal with Night Sorrow, Flowing Cloud wanted to deal with Lin Piaomiao. The main reason was that he was helpless against Night Sorrow's movement and defense. Noticing Flowing Cloud's gaze, Night Sorrow knew that he had to retaliate. If he didn't retaliate, Flowing Cloud would change targets. Then, those targeted by Flowing Cloud would be in danger. After retracting his Primordial Dao domain, Night Sorrow activated his Karmic Cycle Dao domain and pressed down on the river basin. Then, he used Spatial Rend and Soul Annihilation Slash at Lu Yun. Lu Yun's wandering gaze returned. He noticed Night Sorrow and felt the suppression. Knight Sorrow's Imperial Lord level power of merit increased his combat strength by at least 30%. In addition, with the domineering Samsara attribute, Lu Yun's domain had been suppressed to the point of shrinking back to his side. After switching Dao domains, Knight Sorrow used Soul Annihilation Slash and Spatial Rend, using his Blood Qilin Evil Vanquishing Spear to execute the true reincarnation dragon art. He charged at Lu Yun. Chapter 2148. The suppression of his Dao domain caused Ling Yun's expression to change. This situation was too shocking. His Sure cultivation was 20% higher than Knight Sorrow's, so his Dao domain was 20% deeper than Knight Sorrow's. However, he was now completely suppressed. He was suppressed to the point that his Dao domain was reduced to a protective barrier. Just as Lu Yun was feeling surprised, Knight Sorrow's spatial rift restricted his movements. Following that, Soul Annihilation slashed at him. Lu Yun's body trembled as he used his Dao domain to protect himself with his soul power. He naturally knew that the Crescent Blade, which was half a person tall, was a soul attack. Knight Sorrow's Soul Annihilation Slash was blocked by Lu Yun's soul defense. However, Soul Annihilation Slash didn't just have the effect of killing. It also had the effect of causing illusions and other negative effects. While Lu Yun was affected by the illusions, Knight Sorrow's true Samsara Dragon Art attack arrived. Due to the illusions, the power of Lu Yun's sword technique decreased. His speed and attack strength were not enough. After blocking Knight Sorrow's Blood Qilin Evil Vanquishing Spear, his body was sent flying by the Samsara energy. His arms trembled uncontrollably. Knight Sorrow's body was very strong. It was not something Lu Yun could withstand. After suppressing Lu Yun with a full-powered attack, Knight Sorrow used Spatial Rift and Soul Annihilation Slash again. His left hand also struck out with Samsara Heaven Covering Hand to suppress Lu Yun. Then, he used Void Steps and the True Destruction Dragon Art to attack Lu Yun again. At that moment, Lu Yun knew how terrifying Knight Sorrow was. He also knew the reason for Lu Xing's fall. Knight Sorrow had the ability to fight and kill a 5 Sovereign's Tribulation Cultivator. Knight Sorrow, who was attacking at full strength, completely suppressed Lu Yun. Wave after wave of ferocious attacks kept injecting Samsara energy into Lu Yun's body, destroying it. Lu Yun felt fear in his heart. Knight Sorrow's energy that had invaded his body was very stubborn. He couldn't suppress it and kept destroying his body, causing him to be able to control less and less energy. His combat power was also decreasing. I have to leave. Lu Yun knew that if this continued, he would end up like Lu Xing, killed by Knight Sorrow. With the intention of retreating, Flowing Cloud flashed and was about to leave Knight Sorrow's attack range. Flowing Cloud wanted to leave, but Knight Sorrow naturally wasn't willing. He had to eat the big fish in his mouth. Knight Sorrow alternated between executing Void Steps and Spatial Realm, constantly intercepting and attacking Lu Yun. He also pushed his Karmic Taboo, Samsara Dao domain to its limits, suppressing Lu Yun's strength and speed. Damn it! Flowing Cloud realized that after suffering a blow, his strength was inferior to Knight Sorrow's, be it in terms of attack strength or speed. You're the one who deserves to die now. If you want to fight, I'll fight with you. Knight Sorrow's attacks came wave after wave, constantly weakening Flowing Cloud's strength. As the battle continued, Lu Yun's condition became worse and worse. He had already been shot, and a portion of his meridians had been destroyed. Lu Yun knew that he couldn't take it anymore. If this continued, he would definitely die. After some thought, Lu Yun began to circulate the energy in his body. He wanted to self-destruct and leave his soul to survive. Knight Sorrow discovered Lu Yun's intentions, but he couldn't suppress it. At that moment, Lu Yun still had nearly half of his energy left. With a violent boom, Lu Yun self-destructed. Following that, his soul flew out of his body. Knight Sorrow couldn't withstand Lu Yun's self-destruction head-on. After releasing his Karmic Taboo, Samsara Dao domain to its limits, he used Spatial Realm and shot out the Blood Qilin Evil Vanquishing Spear. Lu Yun's soul flew very quickly, but Knight Sorrow's Blood Qilin Evil Vanquishing Spear was even faster. It directly pierced through Lu Yun's soul. The huge shockwave caused Lu Yun's soul to become unstable. At that moment, Knight Sorrow appeared again. He used his Karmic Primordial Domain to suppress and melt Lu Yun's soul. The fire of merit wrapped around it and began burning it. MF. Without his weapon in hand, Knight Sorrow casually took out Meteor's sword and used the primordial heavenly sword art to cut and melt Lu Yun's soul. Lu Yun's soul kept struggling to fly, but he couldn't escape the wrapping and burning of the fire of merit. After being slashed a dozen times by Knight Sorrow, he was completely annihilated. After collecting Lu Yun's battle spoils, Knight Sorrow's body flickered. He ran thousands of miles away before taking back his blood-chilling, evil-vanquishing spear. These thousands of miles were within the range of his soul power. Moreover, the blood-chilling, evil-vanquishing spear was a weapon that recognized its master. It couldn't be lost. After returning, Knight Sorrow didn't attack again. He just watched. At present, his subordinates had an absolute advantage. They drove the meteor core toward the formation area and killed them. When the members of the Heaven Wasteland Army, the Humanitarian League, and the God-slaying team saw Knight Sorrow in the sky, they felt relieved. They knew that Knight Sorrow had killed the strongest member of the meteor core. Pu Luo, the Alliance Master's strength is too terrifying, Ruisi said after killing an Emperor Tribulation cultivator. Yes, a cultivator from the 5 Emperors Tribulation was killed in a short while. His potential is limitless, Pu Luo said as he fought. Why did all cultivators value combat strength and potential? Because it was related to the space for development. Take Knight Sorrow as an example. After Knight Sorrow cultivated to the tribulation of 7 emperors, he might be comparable to other cultivators who cultivated to the tribulation of 9 emperors. In this case, Knight Sorrow still had 2 levels of room for improvement. But what about the cultivators of the tribulation of 9 emperors? They were already facing a bottleneck and had no room for improvement. They could only be surpassed and suppressed. In the chase, the number of soldiers of the Meteor Corps kept decreasing. When they were driven to the formation area, only half of the soldiers of the Tribulation Corps were in the formation. Knight Sorrow also landed on the ground. They're all trapped by the formation. Pu Luo came to Knight Sorrow's side. Do you have to kill? Do you have to do it? Knight Sorrow waved his hand and left. At this time, he was deeply touched. Who was guilty? No one was guilty. This was war. But Knight Sorrow didn't want to slaughter the soldiers of the Tribulation Corps, who didn't have the power to fight back. Knight Sorrow, who was touched, had an epiphany in his heart. He understood what the Taoist heart was and also knew the way to go. He had to prove the Taoist heart with the human heart and prove the Taoist heart with the heaven's heart. Knight Sorrow went to the encampment of the formation area and meditated. He didn't want to see what happened next. Those were the cruel killings brought about by war. 3 days later, the war was over. The Meteor Corps disappeared as if they had never appeared in front of everyone. Knight Sorrow, their existence is a tribulation. Fighting with us is the meaning of their existence. So don't feel guilty. Lin Piaomiao and Pu Luo appeared beside Knight Sorrow. No. Although I don't want to face it, I won't feel any pressure because of it. These things made me understand one thing, Knight Sorrow said with a smile. Chapter 2149. The origin of the Tribulation Realm was in the deepest part of the Tribulation Realm, the Spirit Abyss, which was also where Spirit Sovereign Black Spirit cultivated. 3 legions. Now that we've eliminated one, there are still 2 legions and one of the 3 commanders. That means we've eliminated 1/3 of the forces other than Spirit Sovereign Black Spirit, Knight Sorrow said. That's right. Currently, at the entrance of the space passage, the ones fighting with the rest of the people from the Heaven Realm are the Black Iron Army. Their commander is Black Iron. As for how many protectors went over, I don't know. There's also the Fire Dance Corps. The Fire Dance Corps is on their way to the Heaven Realm. Do you know the specific route? Knight Sorrow asked Lin Piaomiao. Yes, Knight Sorrow bewitched a high-level commander, so I know more about it. Of the 3 legions in the Tribulation Realm, the Black Iron Legion was the first to assemble and set off. They're also at the entrance of the spatial passage. Next is the Meteor Legion. When the Meteor Legion set off, the Fire Dance Corps was still assembling. We should be able to stop them, Lin Piaomiao told Knight Sorrow the details. After thinking about it, Knight Sorrow felt that they had to stop the Fire Dance Corps. If the Fire Dance Corps and the Black Iron Legion met, they would be a great threat to the spatial passage. After all, they were both high-level legions with terrifying combat power. Even if the Azure Dragons, Ice Phoenixes, and Azure Rocks worked together, They might not be able to stop them. Therefore, stopping them in advance was the best solution. Night Sorrow ordered the team to rest for half a day. Then, he asked Night Sorrow to lead the way and intercept the Fire Dance Corps' route. Night Sorrow, the Fire Dance Corps' Legion Commander, is a 5 Emperor Tribulation cultivator like Meteor. The Legion Commander is also at the same level. We have to plan well to intercept them, Lin Piao said. Night Sorrow smiled. I've accumulated some experience this time. The next battle won't be as passive as this one. As for the plan, I have some ideas. Night Sorrow explained his plan to Piluo and the Great Demon King. If the Fire Dance Corps was the same as the Meteor Corps, then the attack could continue. Night Sorrow still planned to hunt down the upper echelons of the Fire Dance Corps first, such as those who had undergone the First Emperor Tribulation and High-Level Emperor Tribulation. This would reduce the pressure on his subordinates during the official battle. Looks like I still need you to do more work. We can't do this kind of thing. After all, our speed and defensive skills are not good enough, the Great Demon King said. After killing some of their upper echelons, I'll try to ambush them and see if I have an opportunity to kill Commander Fire Dance. Of course, even if I don't have an opportunity, I still have to find one. Even if I have to lure her out, I still have to get rid of her. Night Sorrow explained the plan in detail. It wasn't complicated at all. It was just a replication of the previous war. Of course, this time there were detailed steps. Yi Mei and White Meng Meng came. The two of them were holding a large map. The map was drawn by Yi Mei and White Meng Meng according to the situation in the commander's divine sea. After looking at the terrain, Night Sorrow pointed at an area. This is the best place to ambush on the route from the Spirit Abyss to the Spatial Passage. Let's wait there. The others nodded. They were very convinced by Night Sorrow's arrangements. The team rested. Night Sorrow checked Lu Yun's storage ring. After looking through it, Night Sorrow felt that this battle in the Tribulation Realm was a journey of opportunity. The resources he obtained were abundant. Night Sorrow had already obtained a lot of high-level spirit stones. Lu Xing and Lu Yun were both cultivators of the 5 Emperor Tribulation. They were the absolute upper echelons of the Tribulation Realm and had abundant resources. Night Sorrow had obtained more than 20,000 Monarch Spirit Stones and 2,000 Emperor Spirit Stones from the two of them. There were also Spirit Stones that surpassed Emperor Spirit Stones, but there were very few of them, only a dozen. A dozen ultra-top-grade Spirit Stones didn't sound like much, but Night Sorrow knew that they were very useful. These ultra-top-grade Spirit Stones could be used as the core of a formation to support a particularly powerful formation. He used Emperor Spirit Stones as the core of the formation to set up the unparalleled formation, which increased the power of the formation by a lot. In addition, Night Sorrow still had a lot of crystal cores in his hands. 2 of them were at the 5 Emperor Tribulation level and contained very rich energy. One had to know that in the past wars between the 100 races and the demon-winged race in the Celestial Realm, almost none of the cultivators above the 5 Emperor Tribulation were killed or had their crystal cores taken. After experiencing a few big battles, Night Sorrow found that his cultivation was much more solid and not superficial. After resting for half a day, Night Sorrow led the team forward. When they arrived at their destination, Night Sorrow had the team set up camp while he started to set up the formation with the Formation Master. Lin Piao and Dachura followed beside Night Sorrow and chatted with Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow, Fire Dance is different from Lu Xing. She's a woman, and a sinister and cunning one at that. Don't fall for her tricks, Dachura said to Night Sorrow. I'll be careful. This is war, Night Sorrow said. Night Sorrow also knew that female opponents were sometimes harder to deal with than male opponents. They were more meticulous and ruthless than men. Mo Tianji was an example. Night Sorrow chose a canyon to set up the formation area. If everything went smoothly, Night Sorrow would destroy the Fire Dance Corps in this canyon. After setting up the formation, Night Sorrow left. When he left, he took one of Lin Piao's soul crystals. In the same situation as last time, Night Sorrow had to ask a few people for help. Night Sorrow explored the possible route of the Fire Dance Corps. When he found traces of a large group of people, Night Sorrow knew that the route was right. Those were the traces of the Black Iron Corps and the Meteor Corps. After finding a suitable place, Night Sorrow began to wait for the arrival of the Fire Dance Corps. At the same time, he sensed his own situation. After the battle, The situation of the doppelganger would be fed back to the main body. The main body would deduce and study, remove the flaws of the battle skills, and perfect them. In the past period of time, Knight Sorrow had deduced some new battle skills, such as Reincarnation Spatial Split, Void Spatial Split, Primordial Extreme Kill, Primordial Origin Kill, and so on. They were all deduced and needed to be tested in actual combat. After a few battles, the main body would continue to perfect them according to the situation. In addition, the increase in the power of virtue had greatly increased the power of Knight Sorrow's virtuous immortal body. Knight Sorrow knew about the war against the Fire Dance Corps. It was the last battle he and his subordinates had in the Tribulation Realm. After this battle they had destroyed 2 of the 3 major corps. The Black Iron Corps had only a few people left at the Spatial Passage. As for Black Spirit Supremacy, Knight Sorrow knew that he was no match for him because he was a cultivator of the 8 Emperor Tribulation. It would be too easy to deal with him. Finding trouble with Black Spirit Supremacy and saving his life in front of Emo Gentian were 2 different matters. There was no comparison. Kmu New/Previous Chapter H. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.